This good afternoon, everybody. So we're calling this meeting to order today at 5:32 p.m. Um, we would, with the sad news that we received this week with the passing of Miss Bree at Encanto Elementary, I would like to have a moment of silence for her. Thank you so much. Please know that tomorrow we'll be wear pink to honor Miss Bree. So if possible, please make sure to wear pink to honor her. And then at 5:45 p.m. there will be a memorial wind chime placement and a tea light candle vigil if you're interested in attending, if you knew her. Um, and then with that, I'll turn it to Dr. Robert for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, if everyone can please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And now we'll move on to the land acknowledgements. Arizona is home to 22 tribal nations. Osborne School District is situated on the homelands of the Akimel O'odham and Piipash people. Osborne School District recognizes the original inhabitants of these lands and recognizes they still reside throughout the city of Phoenix. We recognize their wisdom, impact, and generosity toward us. Osborne School District is surrounded by the original Salt River canals that were constructed by the ancestral Sonoran Desert people, the Huhugam. These canals created a livelihood for the people and are still in use today. We acknowledge the modern indigenous people that inhabited this area, as well as their Sonoran Desert ancestors, the Huhugam. All right, thank you so much. And now we don't have any school presentations today. Do we have any announcements?
Um,
Oh,
no,
actually, sorry,
yeah,
I skipped ahead. My bad.
yes.
School board member reports. So we'll start with board member Blink.
Thank you so much. I just want to share my condolences as well for Miss Hobbs, both as a teacher and as an Encanto parent or a parent in the district as well. I know many board members and others knew her much better than I did, but just want to share my condolences. Certainly want to thank Principal Fernandez and the entire Encanto community for their leadership and the many ways that we saw as a board. They provided thoughtful ways for students to grieve and for staff to share their memories and honor Miss Hobbs. Just in moments like this reminds me of how close our community is and how special Osborne is overall. And I'm just so glad people were able to take the space this week to take the time they needed and honor her memory and feel all those emotions. That's it for me.
All right, board member Hermes.
Thank you, Madam President. Also want to share condolences for Miss Hobbs and family. And my kids had Miss Hobbs as an art teacher, both of them, and it's very tragic and very sad. And so thank you for everyone who's here supporting our kids through that. And I appreciate all the supports moving up into Clarendon as well. For those kids like my daughter in fourth grade who had Miss Hobbs last year. Um, it's been feel like a busy time since our last meeting. A lot going on in the district, and been really fortunate to get out to a lot of different things. Um, the the big library event that Encanto did with bringing the Phoenix Public Libraries onto our schools to help our kids get their library cards, which was phenomenal. I really appreciate it, Mrs. Fernandez, who pioneered that, brought that to our school. I thought that was an amazing event, and was very impressed with how much enthusiasm the readers had for when they did their book reading. Similarly, at Clarendon, had a picnic, book reading picnic, right before spring break, and it was a phenomenal event. And I hope everybody had a great spring break as well. One of the To me, one of the most important things we do here as a school board and as a parent is we protect our kids and we protect our families and make sure we have a safe learning environment that everybody feels safe and protected. And a couple of things recently on that topic was really fortunate to uh, put together with the district and with a community organization, Lucha, a Know Your Rights presentation before spring break, which was phenomenal. Got information out there to folks who needed it, who especially right now to protect our immigrant communities, and brought our families together in solidarity to make sure we're supporting and protecting our immigrant families. And then just finally want to acknowledge, in terms of protecting our students, a student who was hit by a car this week on Osborne Road over here. And some of you, I don't know if anyone's on the board when we formed a Safe Routes to School committee. Of course, Dr. Robert remembers that with Don Cross and other community members. And a big part of that was Osborne Road and fixing Osborne Road. And it's a road that our families know has not been safe, and there's been speeding, and we've seen some progress. And that progress that we do see on Osborne Road, the slowing we do see, is in large part because of that effort from the Safe Routes to School committee. Clearly, our work is not done, and clearly Osborne Road, especially as you go east of 11th Avenue, is still not safe, and there's still a lot of portions of our streets that still are not safe. And so I'm reminded of that today, in light of that. The student is, I understand, is okay, but was injured, and we still have a lot more work to do as a community, as a city, as a school district, to keep all of our kids safe out there, both coming to school, leaving school, and as well as in school. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Clerk Ford.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to extend my sincerest condolences to Miss Bree and her family. Um, and in celebration of Miss Bree, I wanted to share a story that just really encompasses who she is. Miss Bree has been my son's art teacher for the last 2 years. And the animal project that I've talked about in previous board meetings started with making a model of an animal in art class. And my son made his, and he hated it. He said it was so ugly. I hated it. I wanted to throw it away. And I said, why don't you go talk to Miss Bree and tell her you don't like your animal, and she's going to help you. And that's exactly what she did. And so when he came home from school, he said, Miss Bree helped me. It looks so much better. Thank you for telling me to talk to her. And that's the kind of person Miss Bree was, always ready to help our students, there for kids, helping them be as creative as their minds can imagine. So I just wanted to send all my love to Miss Bree and her family. I also want to recognize Happy Women's History Month. This district is profoundly better because of the strength of the women who work in this school district. So I just wanted to shout out some of the incredible women who work really hard to make sure that our kids are receiving a high quality education. I want to acknowledge Miss Lisa Nye, who is the executive assistant to not only Dr. Robert, but us here on the governing board. She's incredible. Thank you for all you do, Lisa. We also have our Chief Officer of Learning and Equity, Miss Abby Potter Davis. I will be better about memorizing your title. Thank you for all you do. Our COO, Miss Colleen McCabe. Thank you for everything you do. Our Director of Student Services, Dr. Sarah Boyle. Our 2 curriculum specialists for data and assessment, Melissa Robinson. And for our language acquisition and biliteracy, Miss Alexis Aguirre. Thank you for all you do. And also Dr. Emerald Woodland, who is our Director of Human Resources. Thank you to all the ladies who work in our district office who make such an incredible difference. And then lastly, I want to shout out our site principals. So Miss Kim Fernandez, thank you for all you do at Encanto. Miss Stephanie Sotomayor over at Montecito, and the amazing duo of Miss Carol Hayes and Miss Allison Al Gomez over at Osborne Middle School. Thank you for all you do. Also want to celebrate the ending of Ramadan for all of our Muslim brothers and sisters. Eid Mubarak. Ramadan is ending on Friday. I hope that everybody had a wonderful Ramadan. As far as out and about in the community, this month, since our last meeting, I attended the community safety night. Thank you to our district and our social workers for hooking Encanto and Clarendon families together with Lucha and ACE, the Arizona Center for Empowerment. They really talked about how to keep our communities safe, our rights as people who reside here in the United States. So thank you to Lucha and ACE and district for hosting that. I also attended the Reading Under the Stars event that board member Hermes talked about. That's to kick off a reading fundraiser at Encanto It was an incredible night. Just really beautiful weather. Kids engaged in reading. We had guest readers, a food truck. Phoenix Public Library was there. It was an incredible event. I also was able to attend two events back to back. So the first one was the Arizona List event. Arizona List was really the first organization that believed in me as somebody on a governing board. And so they hold a place near and dear to my heart. Lots of incredible women at that event as well. I was able to be a guest reader at Longview right before spring break, and I actually, with my schedule, chose to read to a sixth grade class. Sixth graders are kind of a tough nut to crack, but they were incredibly gracious, kind, caring. We helped Miss Montoya and I helped them check out books. The reading events that Longview does, students go home with a brand new book, all students, and she just decorates her library in such a beautiful way. I've said it before and I'll say it again. My favorite library in this entire city is Miss Montoya's library over at Longview. It's beautiful. And then I was invited to actually do the Kids Read event at Encanto. So our Osborne Educational Foundation raises money every year for students, and they are able to get 5 brand new books in the hands of our third graders. And Miss Garcia was gracious enough to ask me to come and read, and so I was able to read When Grandma Gives You a Lemon Tree, which was a really fun book talking about how this child wanted all of these things, and the grandma gave him a lemon tree and they were really disappointed, but then they realized that they could make lemonade and sell it and then have income to buy all of the electronics that they wanted to buy. It was a fun book. And then last but not least, I attended the Save Our Schools celebration of public schools. Save Our Schools is an organization that has been working tirelessly, started as moms around a kitchen table, seeing that these vouchers, the empowerment scholarships, were going to be a huge problem for Arizona. And so they got to work really hard. They were the organization that actually put vouchers on the ballot. We all know that the voters unanimously shot those down by overwhelming margins, yet the legislature pushed them through anyway. I was able to attend that event with my friend Erica Svitala. So thank you for attending with me. Erica is one of our candidates for governing board here in November. So thank you for attending with me. It was a really powerful event. They raised $18,000. And I just wanted to highlight several of the things that are happening in our public schools. Firstly, the MC was Brent Whiting, and he is an Osborne parent and he emceed the whole event. He was super engaging, really fun. And then the best part with my teacher heart was, of course, the student performances. So, some really amazing things that are happening in our public schools. They had Mesa Public Schools sent their honor harp ensemble. They teach how to play the harp out in Mesa, which is really incredible. They had a step team from Chandler High School. And then a couple really amazing performances from Los Tigres de Tolosan. They had a mariachi band and Los Lobos Baile Folklorico as well. So those were really awesome performances. We were able to raise some money for this really awesome organization that are currently printing petitions for the Protect Education Act, which I'm hoping we'll be able to get on the ballot in November so we can finally have some transparency and accountability to this off the rails voucher program. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And for me, I attended also the library at Longview to read to Miss Montoya's fifth graders during that time. And so, like you, I was also a little afraid to read to fifth graders, but they were really great and had amazing questions. And then right after that, I went to Miss Lau Garcia's classroom to read to first graders, where I also stayed almost an hour observing Miss Ver. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your last name, but our literacy coach. And that was really excellent to see our literacy coach in action and to see the different strategies that are being used to ensure that our students are, achieving those literacy benchmarks that we are hoping they achieve. So thank you so much for letting me be there and observing. Ms. Montoya said she would be inviting us again to read. I am really excited and hopeful that she'll invite me to read in Spanish. since this last time around I chose a book in Spanglish, and she was very impressed with my Spanish skills. So super excited to hopefully go back and do that. And then just a quick announcement: there is going to be a fundraiser for the Osborne Foundation this Friday at OSO. Yeah. And so it'll be 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And a percentage of what you buy, if you let them know that you are with Osborne, goes to their fundraisers, which, like Clerk Ford mentioned, buys books for our kiddos as well as provides mini grants for our teachers. So if you are available on 320 to go support, that would be really great. Perfect. So that's it for our board member reports. Do we have any announcements?
Just a couple announcements. You took that last one about the OSO event. It goes from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. So if you can stop by and get coffee on your way to wherever, just get that coffee. But make sure that you're there with. Tell them that you're there with Osborne. It's not just any old percent. 20%. Like OSO, what a great partnership that they've got with us. That they're supporting the foundation in that way. There are three major things that the foundation does. They support grants. So that's mini grants and also the request for funding. They support Kids Read and they support after school sports within the district. Those are their three big initiatives. So share the word with friends, family. You don't have to be Osborne staff. Just anyone that goes in and says, I'm here with Osborne, 20% of the proceeds from 7 a.m. all the way till 10 p.m. Are going to be benefiting the foundation. Something else that's happening on Friday that is super exciting over at Osborne Middle School. What do you call it? Is it Firehawk Family Hawk Firehawk Family Night? For any of our students that are in preschool through 6th grade, get over to OMS and see where your pathway is. All four of my kids went to Osborne Middle School. It is so awesome. Do not wait until 7th grade to make that the first time you step foot on the OMS campus. Be there this Friday evening. The staff always has fun activities. It's just a blast. Go out. I've enjoyed it for many years, and I hope to see many of you out there this Friday afternoon. And then after you do that, you can go to OSO, right? Or maybe beforehand or whatever. But make sure you do both of them, not just one of those events. Something very exciting that happened over the past month. I see we've got a lot of members from our bond team that are here, and we had a celebration with our huge bond program that our community said yes to us and said that they wanted certain things to be happening in our schools. And 2 years ago, we saw great playgrounds that went in here at Encanto at Clarendon. We saw a small piece that went in for special education students at Solano. This year was Longview's turn. And do you guys follow our social media? If you did, you got to see the coolest video started by Mr. White right there in the beginning with his 1, 2, 3. And then the kids, their excitement was contagious. This is a playground for pre-K and kindergarten students. I don't know. I think it tripled the amount of equipment that they have out there. They were having so much fun. They're still having so much fun. And we have to say thank you to our community because you made that happen. It was a fantastic celebration. If you missed it on our social media, just scroll back, about a week and a half and you can watch it. It's such a fun video. Brendan does such an amazing job with all of our communications and he shares the joy that we get to celebrate every day. And it was definitely present at Longview. And the final thing, just in terms of our community and the loss of Miss Bree over this past week, I just want to say a couple things. Number one, Miss Fernandez has just been an absolute rock. Please support her because it's a hard time to be a leader on a campus that's struggling. And they do so much to take care of the people around them. And we got to remember to take care of the caregivers. Our social workers are truly amazing. Every single school had no problem with saying, go and be there on the campus in the morning and all throughout the day for the kids and for the staff. They were there bright and early Monday morning in the cafeteria for kids all day long to support them as they are experiencing and needing someone to talk to, as well as staff members. And that's the last piece that I want to talk to is education is a labor of love. We do this because we love children. And the staff at Encanto has just really done a beautiful job of taking care of your kids this week. And they're hurting too. And I see it in their faces. I feel it when I walk on the campus. It's really hard right now. And so in the same way that I said, like, let's make sure that we're wrapping ourselves around Miss Fernandez as a leader, every single staff member on that campus is holding a lot for our kids. But it's going to hit them that there's a loss in their community. And so we just need whatever feels right to you. Thoughts, prayers, well wishes, going up to someone. Our community really needs it right now. This board has done an amazing job in reaching out and just expressing and telling me, their feelings that they want me to pass along, and making sure that I'm okay and that our staff is okay. We got to keep doing this. You never know when those feelings are going to come into. It's not just on day 1 or day 5. There are going to be different times as people walk past and see that wind chime, and it'll be that reminder. And we just got to continue. I love this district, and I'm so proud of us. And we show who we are every single day, and we will continue to do that during this difficult time.
Thank you so much. With that, we will move to the call to the public. And so I believe we have, nope, they're not on. Okay, so we were going to have a virtual, but I guess we weren't able to get a hold of them. So we'll continue then with what we have here. And so just a reminder, per board policy, we have 3 minutes. So Brendan, if you could please put the 3-minute timer up when you come up and speak to the public. So first we have Mary and last name Kaech.
Good afternoon, evening, President Ramos, members of the board, and Superintendent Robert. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mary Keck. I am the parent of 2 Montecito students. Rose is in 4th grade and Alma is in 1st grade. When we joined Montecito in 2023, Rose was in 1st grade in the dual language program at Encanto, and we were very happy there. We only considered Montecito when we heard that it would offer a dual language option. So then we toured the school, we became intrigued by the Montessori method, and we decided to make the switch. So over the past 3 years, we've come to truly love the Montecito community and deeply appreciate the Montessori approach and the opportunity for our little kids to grow up understanding Spanish and appreciating the culture and the people that come with it. It's very important to our family, and dual language education is one piece of that learning, but an important piece. So Rose was one of the students that lost access to dual language at the beginning of this year because of an unexpected teacher shortage. So I would ask you to please invest in restoring the dual language program for upper elementary students at Montecito. I have 2 additional requests. First, I understand that, again, Rose's class next year, the upper elementary students will have 33 students and just 1 teacher. Ms. Jill Singh is outstanding. We all know that, but she is only human. And so to meet each student's needs without burning out our teachers, I would ask that every classroom at Montecito be given a teacher's aide. Lastly, middle school. Our family would love to stay at Montecito all the way through middle school. Even my 1st grader, Alma, already says that she wants to stay there through middle school. And I imagine that building a middle school program is extremely difficult, and I'm grateful for the work that you're already doing on that. And I would ask you to please continue to prioritize that new program. Montecito is a special community, and we hope to be part of it for many years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now we have Crystal Ramirez.
Hello, everybody. My name is Crystal Ramirez, and I come from a bilingual household, and I have a student in the primary classroom. at Montecito Montessori School. This is our family's first year at the school, and we live outside of district, like literally right across the street, outside of district. And we chose Montecito because of the Montessori curriculum and its dual language offerings. Our family strongly supports public education, and we were excited to find a school that was within public school system like this. So far, we've been having a very positive experience, and this is our daughter's first year, and she's truly enjoyed being part of this community as well as us. Recently, we learned that our current teacher will be moving into the English only classroom next year. So, and I understand that most schools change teachers annually, and I recognize the privilege of being part of the Montessori model where school students typically stay with the same teacher for 3 years across mixed ages and grades. However, because maintaining bilingual education is very important to our family, we've made the decision to switch our daughter's teacher next year so that she can continue learning in a bilingual classroom. We are also recently learned that there's not an organized plan for upper elementary students to continue bilingual education next year. While this doesn't affect our family immediately, it will impact us in the future. And when we had toured the school in January of 25, when our kid was literally 2, we were told about the vision for Montecito to eventually expand to include middle school. That vision was very appealing to our family as well, to kind of move to that Montessori learning in middle school. And I understand that growth like this takes time, enrollment, and careful planning, but I want to express how important it is for our families like ours that these goals remain a priority for the school and the district. We recognize that enrollment challenges and budget pressures facing public education right now, but at the same time, we want to ensure that our voices are heard because we want our children to have access to the strongest bilingual public educational possible while benefiting from Montessori model of learning. Thank you for taking time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Emily Lenitz.
Hello, members of the governing board. My name is Emily Lenitz, and I am the mother of 2 primary students, one in pre-K and one in kindergarten. This is our second year at Montecito Montessori. We chose Montecito for a number of reasons: dual language, Montessori public school, location, small class sizes, limited technology in the classroom, clearly caring and dedicated teachers and staff, and planned pre-K through 8th dual language by the time our children were at that level. We also chose it for the opportunity to help grow a community and revive an existing school campus. We are out of district, as are a number of our other students. And we were accepted to the other public Montessori program in district for us that is well established and already provides resources to their students that I hope to see at Montecito, pre-K through 8, after school sports for older kids, and so on. We chose Montecito because overall it aligned with our values, and we were and still are willing to work through the growing pains and put in the effort to help the program grow. Communication and transparency has been less than ideal, and I know we are losing really great families as a result. My child is also losing his teacher next year, and my child last year was placed into the English only class for the first semester because of Miss Marr. Obviously, these things were not planned. We understand that there's staffing issues, but it has been less than ideal for us, and communication around it wasn't great. Um, I am Oh, I'm so sorry, I lost my spot. I'm thrilled to hear that we have an additional guide lined up for lower end elementary dual language next year, and appreciate the early communication regarding the changes to the primary classrooms. I am concerned, however, how we plan to continue to grow when we are downsizing our Spanish primary classrooms. But I am much more concerned about what is happening in 4th, 5th, and 6th next year for dual language, and the fact that our 7th graders are moving to OMS. Our family's number one reason for choosing Montecito was the dual language program, and I know that we're not alone. I ask that the district continues to take a chance on our school, our community, and our commitment to growth by pledging to staff the school with a dual language classroom for upper elementary next year, a clear plan for supporting 7th and 8th grade, and a commitment to more communication and community involvement when these big decisions are being made. I appreciate your time and consideration, and thank you for your service to our district and our students.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Ellen LAUX.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ellen Laux. My daughter, Lola, is in third grade, and my son, Remy, is in kindergarten at Montecito. Montecito is where my kids are growing up. It's where we're building community. It's a school I recommend to every family who asks, and we love our school. I'm here tonight because I found out last month that there's no formal plan for dual language to continue into upper elementary. My daughter starts upper elementary school next year, and maintaining the continuity of her dual language education is so important to our family. We feel proud and lucky that our kids have the opportunity to participate in this program, and losing it is not an option we want to consider. So I'm here to raise a question about our future. What's the plan for dual language for children entering fourth, fifth, and sixth grade? And as we think beyond that, what's the plan for middle school? This year, 4 students reached upper elementary and saw their dual language program end unexpectedly. There was no backfill, there was no formal plan, just a gap where continuity used to be. And next year, that number grows to 10 or 12. My daughter Lola, again, she's one of those kids. These aren't abstract numbers. These are children who've spent years building language skills and confidence. And they're entering these years where the foundation pays off. My kids are not from a bilingual family, and we've worked so hard to support their education. Um, to lose the continuity now is not just disruption, it's a total loss of everything that we've been working for. And the risk to not having a plan for dual language in upper elementary, it's already here. Parents are making enrollment decisions now. Families who would choose Montecito are pausing because the path forward isn't clear. And this includes our family. Every month without a plan is a month that we lose families who we won't get back. I know it's a hard moment to ask for investment. I know the district is navigating real uncertainty, but the cost and risk of inaction are also really real. An enrollment that installs, and in our multi-million-dollar construction remodel of our school that might not ever reach the full potential. I'm asking for a commitment to funding a dual language upper elementary school guide, and for you to share the plan for what's the future of Montecito and the growth of a middle school. You took a really bold step investing in our school, and it's created a committed, engaged, and growing community at Montecito. I'm asking that you keep the momentum going. Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And our last call to the public is Erica Sutala.
Good evening, President Ramos and governing board members. My name is Erica Switala. I am tonight here to announce proudly that I am running for the Osborne Governing School Board for the 2026 election in November. Osborne is more than just a school district to me. It is a community that has raised my family and, quite honestly, myself. I moved into the community in 2011 as a young mother and a student in college. Soon after that, I started working as a paraprofessional in a neighboring district where I developed my passion for public education and special education. I enrolled my daughter here in the first dual language program in Osborne, which was at the time, it started in January at Solano School. From there, she attended Encanto and then Clarendon and continued on to promote from Osborne Middle School in spring of 2025. Today, my youngest daughter is in third grade at Encanto, attending the dual language program. I myself became an educator upon graduating ASU, and I began teaching in special education here in Osborne for 9 years between Solano and Encanto schools. Here is where I really learned to put students first and support our public schools and our systems. I also became an advocate, serving as our co-president for the Osborne Education Association for 4 years. During that time, I learned how to advocate for our schools, public education, and educators as well as students. Currently, I work in the Student Services Department in a neighboring district, which allows me to bring regional perspective back home into Osborne. This district invested in me when I was just starting out as a young mom and in my young in my career. It shaped me as a parent, a teacher, and a leader. And now it's my turn to return that investment, and I'm ready to serve the community that has given my family so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. And so we'll move on to the consent agenda. All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item on our agenda here is we have no board presentation this month. So we have our administrative reports. Any comments, questions, feedback? All right. Well, thank you everyone for all the time that you put into the administrative reports. It really does help us get a full picture of what's happening in our district. And so, for the community watching us online, I do encourage you to check them out. It really does give great information for all of us. All right, moving on to our action items. So we'll start with action item A, recommendation to approve 26-27 employee fringe benefit plans.
Good evening. Before we move into the action item, we have a guest from Kairos. Ms. Jennifer Sherman is here to do a quick information and presentation on next year's plans and structure of the Kairos pool.
Thank you so much.
Hello. What's this? Good evening, President Ramos, governing board members, and Superintendent Robert. It is truly such a pleasure to be here. And I thank you for the opportunity to spend some time talking about the Kairos benefit pool and the partnership that we've had in helping take care of the Osborne staff. So without further ado, I could talk about this for hours, but I will keep it short and not read all of the slides. But I want to start with a little bit about who is Kairos, because I think there is definitely a need and an interest to find a way to manage one of the highest costs expenses for any employers that are out there today. So history of Kairos is, you can see on the slide on the left-hand side, some of you may be familiar with an organization called the Trust. The Trust is actually a very successful pool that was started in 1986. So they've got 40 years in. They just celebrated their 40th anniversary. And they've been focused on property and liability. They cover about 247 of the roughly, I think it's 252 school districts in the state of Arizona. So with that 40-year history, they went ahead and created the Alliance, which is focused on workers' comp. And today they cover about 236 of the school districts in the state of Arizona. So a big history of pooling success. And by pooling, we're really just talking about gathering like-minded entities, employer groups together to build leveraging or buying power. So bringing people together to get better buying power for insurance services. In 2016, the boards of the Trust and the Alliance got together and said, we have had such great success, not only managing risk and averting costs that school districts might face on their own, but also creating special programs like training. I just participated in one of the Trust programs that was active shooter training. So aside from just risk mitigation, they also offer unique training opportunities and additional services. In 2016, those board members got together and said, we need to do the same thing for health insurance because it is currently unsustainable. And if you watch the news at all, you hear about this in every news episode. And unfortunately for me, I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I'm a glutton for punishment, but I am very passionate about making sure that in the end result, employees, thank you. I'm also really quiet. Is this it? Okay? Can you hear me okay? I'm also very passionate about making sure that the employees understand the benefits they have available to them. That is the end goal. So, and that is our goal with Kairos. I started my career 20 years ago in benefits and was basically on the private sector for the majority of the time with a small broker, helping small to mid-sized businesses in the state of Arizona. When the opportunity came to talk with Kairos about 4.5 years ago, I was incredibly intrigued because I wasn't really familiar with pooling and the ability that we have to not only create cost savings opportunities. I think this slide just went dead. But leverage buying power, bring common minded individuals together, and create other services aside from just the traditional health insurance model. So let me go back. So here we are. We've been around since 2017, getting close to our 10th year. We're still what we would call a baby pool when we look at the trust and the alliance. But we have 62 public entities within the pool. We're a little different than trust and alliance in that we have stratified some of our risk by allowing other public entities into the pool, meaning we not only cover school districts, but we include fire districts, cities and towns, and sanitary districts, but all focused on public entities. Some of the reason for this is, again, it does help us differentiate some of the risk that traditional school districts would have. There's a high female population. We know females drive a lot of claims. Well, now we have fire districts in there to help balance out some claims. So that was the reason that we opened it up a little bit more. We have two different models for people, for entities to join. So we're a little different in that model in that we have shared risk pooling, meaning if you're a small to mid-sized organization, you might not have the financial wherewithal to sustain high medical claims years. So you can join into a pool with about 58 other entities and help balance each other's risk out year over year. So that's the premise behind the shared risk pool. We also offer a self-insured model. So again, if you're a larger school district and you have larger reserves or funding, you can go and become self-insured and take on your own claims risk. This affords you the opportunity to have a little bit more autonomy in plan design and structure, contributions, but we still offer both options available to the entities that join Kairos. Here's a quick breakdown of our membership throughout the state of Arizona. As I mentioned before, we're about 62 members, so those are employer groups in the pool. We have about 13,000 employees and 19,000, we call them belly buttons, participants on the plan. So if I were to procure benefits and I were Osborne, I would be looking at my population of about 300 people enrolled. If I went out to the open market, my cost would probably be wildly different and fluctuate wildly year over year based on my claims experience, as opposed to the Kairos 19,000 belly buttons, if that makes sense. The partners that we have, so we bring together a full suite of partners to help administer the benefits. We are led by a board of directors, which are our membership. So we work with the board of directors each year to procure all of the benefits that you see on the screen. We hire consultants from the left to benefit partners, including medical carriers like UMR, UHC, to process claims. We work with Delta Dental, MetLife for any number of benefits. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see other special programs that I'll get into a little bit more. So we talked about part of the value of pooling is not only the insurance piece, but the additional services that you wouldn't be able to get as an Osborne school district on the open market. And I'll share more in a minute about those. So a little bit of a picture on how the dollars work when it comes into Kairos. So we call them contributions. So you can see right now we have contributions coming from schools, cities and towns, and fire districts, each paying what we call contributions or revenue into the pool. Today it sits at about 184 million in revenues each year, and you'll see that they then get split out into different buckets. The buckets are made up of insured programs, medical, RX, and dental claims, claims admin and network rental, and administration. And I can share more about those different buckets for you in a minute. Finally, down at the bottom, this is the key differentiator. Any additional monies left over fall into the surplus or deficit bucket. The value of pooling is all of those dollars stay in the Kairos pool for the Kairos membership. The goal here is to create a long-term sustainable pool for all of its members and help to balance out the risk for each entity year over year. Again, more information on how the dollars are allocated. So when we talk about every dollar that comes into the Kairos pool, we want to know how are you spending those dollars? What's really driving the cost and what can we control? That's the biggest thing. You want to have the data so you know what you can control. And you can see the biggest expense that we face in the pool is that big purple portion of the pie, and it's claims. It's medical, dental, prescription drug claims. What used to be the biggest cost driver was hospital, inpatient hospital claims, and now we're seeing a huge surge in claims expense for pharmacy. And I'll share some supporting slides in a moment. From there, you see some other smaller slices of the pie. So about 5% is tied to claims, admin, and network rental. What that means to you is we go out and rent the United Healthcare network of doctors for the Osborne staff. We also procure with UMR to process the medical claims. So that represents about 5% of the total cost of the program. Insured programs are things like kind of pass-through programs like short-term disability, voluntary life. Those are usually programs that the employees actually pick up the cost, but they still go through the pool, and we share that information with you from a billing standpoint. And then finally, the pool administration fee. This is how much do we get paid to do all of this? So I showed you the chart of all of the things that we do, all of the members in the pool. All totaled, we do that for about 3% of the total cost of the revenue. Okay. Benefits, programs, and services. So for the shared risk pool members, which Osborne is in the shared risk pool, we offer 6 medical plans to choose from, and today Osborne offers all of those to their staff. I know this is really tiny, but I can send the presentation over to you later so you can look through it in more detail if you need to. But we have 3 plans that are what we call copay driven plans, meaning they're the traditional. When you go to the doctor, you pay a copay out of pocket. Every time you access care, you go to the pharmacy, you pay a copay out of pocket. Now, on the far right, we have 3 high deductible health plans. So high deductibles are sort of a newer entity. They started getting adopted around 15, 20 years ago, but they are a great avenue for people as long as they understand the trade-offs. When you sign up for a high deductible health plan, you can also do an HSA bank account. This is a great tax savings and long-term savings opportunity as long as you understand that cash trade-off when you actually do go access services, because everything's subject to deductible first. We're very passionate about educating people about these plans and making sure that they understand the plan that they're choosing for the next benefit year. And I truly do believe this is something every family should evaluate every year for themselves. I'm an insurance nerd. I break out the Excel spreadsheet and I'm figuring out how many copays or how many deductibles did we meet, but that's truly how you can make the best benefit decision for your family each year. Benefits. So aside from just the health insurance, we also cover the pharmacy that's embedded when you sign up with Kairos. You get medical and pharmacy. You can choose the other options. So we've got 2 dental options. We've got a dental PPO through Delta Dental. We have TDA, which is actually now called EMI, for a DHMO dental option, which is a lower cost option, but you do pay kind of that copay model when you use the services. We also have a great vision plan through VSP. We have a whole list of other benefits that employees can choose from. And today Osborne chooses all but I think 3 of them. So you've got basic life, supplemental life, short-term disability, voluntary worksite benefits, and the like. Pet insurance is always one that comes up and people ask for, so good to know. We also include a full suite of wellness benefits. So preventive services at 0 cost share for employees. Those are things like your annual mammogram, colonoscopies, your well woman visit, your just annual well check. Vaccinations are all available at no cost, and that was part of the ACA legislation. We have Real Appeal, an online weight loss and lifestyle management program that's available to members at no cost as well. That's an online, kind of like a Weight Watchers, if you will, online weight management program at 0 cost. UMR Care is available for ongoing conditions. UMR Maternity Program. We have Active and Fit, which is a gym discount program for memberships. For participants. There's no cost to this, just you can go out and join any number of memberships at a discounted rate. And then finally, basic will and prep and financial wellness, which frankly, to my dismay, a lot of people never even touch on this. So it is an underutilized benefit. Teledoc is one of the benefits that we like to tout the most because we know that it creates access to care, if I could talk, for employees 24 hours a day. It is also the lowest cost access to care for a lot of things. In fact, in 26-27 plan years, so starting July 1, we have waived cost share for the shared risk pool for all plans, for all services for Teledoc. So this is a huge opportunity that creates better access to care for your participants. So through this, you have access to not only your general medical, so cold and flu, pink eye, sinusitis, those kinds of visits, there's also behavioral health. So past COVID, we saw a huge spike in need for mental health support. There's behavioral health support online visits available through Teledoc at zero cost. And then finally, dermatology. So I actually had a member tell me that his teenagers were facing some problems with their skin and breakouts, so he was going to jump on Teledoc today and see if he could get a prescription for them. So just nice to know that you have the flexibility to take advantage of that 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I joke and say I usually get a sinus infection twice a year, and I can call from my office. I don't have to leave work, take time off work, go sit in a waiting room, and it's going to be available at no cost for members. Another great advantage, I talked to you about behavioral health uptick since COVID. Our ComPsych EAP, that's Employee Assistance Program, is available as well. In the program, there's a number of services. I really do encourage people to go out to the website and see all of the things that they'll do, the least of which is mental health support. But each member that is enrolled on the medical plan and their families are eligible for these visits. Now, today, we're set at 6 visits per issue per year. Now, that's per issue. So if I've got an issue because I have a cranky teenager and then I have an issue because a family member passed away, those are 2 separate issues. So I can utilize those visits. Now, in 26-27, again, with our pooling and our better buying power, we were able to increase those visits to 8 per issue. So we're happy to increase those benefits as well. Other programs that are available. So you'll see our logo, Kairos Pro Navigators. I like to just say those are your advocates. We have nurses on staff within Kairos. Today we sit on it as a team of 3. I'm hiring another nurse to help expand the program. But they are truly advocates. They are clinically trained people that are available telephonically to talk with your staff to answer any questions that they have. I have a billing issue. I have a new diagnosis. I have a medication and it's not getting approved. What's happening? I need a new specialist. So, any of those questions, I like to tell the team to say that we don't have a culture of no, we have a culture of yes. So, when anybody calls in, it's never an answer of, well, we don't handle that here. It's a, we may not handle it, but we know who to get you in touch with. We'll make the first call for you. So, they're available to you. We also have Kairos Pro Wellness. So I talked a little bit about this before, but we do have wellness and health fair event coordination as well. On-site flu shots, mammograms, and biometrics at no additional cost. Disease management, we talked about a little bit, maternity programs and weight loss programs. We are also tiptoeing into, and there's a better slide for this, but a whole bunch of other really cool stuff for the staff. So I'm very excited to share that with you. We're calling it our Kairos ecosystem. I'll touch on that in a minute. In addition to all the stuff that I talked, this insurance-y stuff, here's some stuff that Kairos does as a pool administrator. So aside from the health insurance, we're also doing these other services. So purple category, we've got member support. We're here to answer any questions that your people have. I lost an ID card, I can't find a doctor, you name it. I have a bill that I don't know if I should pay. So we're here to support your members. We also have 3 teams that are focused on customer service. We've got account management team. They're the front line. They're usually working day to day with your HR support staff to just address any issues and help with the plan management. We also have a participant advocate. So that's an 800 number. We actually office right off of 3rd Street in Osborne. So we're literally down the street. And we've got 2 ladies that pick up the phone and answer those 800 calls for support. We also then have the nurses that we talked about before that are here as advocates. Aside from that, and what I didn't see on the broker side, I was very service heavy on the broker side, but I could not compete with the financial reporting piece that we offer within the pool. So within the pool, we take on the expense of doing actual financial audits every year and reporting that to the board. Our board meetings are all public and focused, so you're welcome to attend them to get more information. We do customized contribution modeling if you need help with that. So some school districts don't have that capability. We also come up with funding strategies. We'll share with you financial performance and claims information once a year, and more if you ask for it. But we find that once a year usually is the most palatable for most districts. And then finally, professional services. I think the most important out of the professional services here is compliance and vendor management. So, compliance. I don't know how many of you are familiar with all of the varying levels of compliance that are out there today, but we're talking about things like gag clause, Medicare Part D, PCORI fees, NQTL, all of these things are things that we're doing behind the scenes throughout the year to help manage the plan and keep you guys compliant. At the end of the day, the government actually looks to you as employers to say, are you compliant? Are you sending out all the notices? All you have to do is call us and we give you that information to say, yes, you're compliant. We also take off some of the administrative burden. We help you with flexible spending account, HSA, health spending accounts, and COBRA administration. We also offer a customized benefit portal to help your staff enroll in their benefits, and that creates the thing that manages the billing throughout the year. This is the slide that I teased a little bit about earlier. So the Kairos ecosystem is newer in its inception. And right out of the chute, our first program that we have is a program called Aware Health. This is a virtual physical therapy program, and we're thrilled to be able to offer this. We've had a great adoption across all of the Kairos pool. Within this, each member that's enrolled in the medical plan is eligible, everybody that's 12 years and older is eligible for free virtual physical therapy with an actual online doctor of physical therapy. The visits are unlimited and again, zero cost out of pocket. So this has been a great resource to us. Part of the reason that we created this ecosystem is we started looking at that data and how can we control costs. One of the biggest cost drivers that was in the pool was musculoskeletal claims. So think about achy backs, knee replacement, hip replacement, sore shoulders, those kinds of things. All of those lead to very expensive procedures. Think imaging and then surgeries and then physical therapy after the fact, and we hope that it works. What we've found is we've been able to provide this free physical therapy to people and avoid some of the scans, avoid some of the surgeries. And we've got, I don't even know how many testimonials now from members that have said, I was planning, Dr. Robert is one of them, planning a surgery over fall break or spring break. And through Aware Health and doing the PT, they were able to avoid needing surgery and they are now living pain free. So that has been a huge cost saver within the pool. The next one is Scottsdale Robotics, and we're actually working with each of these direct contracts to coordinate them. So Aware Health, if you were going through PT for that achy shoulder and it just wasn't working and we determined that, yep, you do actually need to have surgery, Aware PT actually coordinates with Scottsdale Robotics to transfer you over, help you get the appropriate scans at a cost palatable place, and then help you organize if you need to have surgery, and then follow up with you on the resulting PT after the fact. Now, the nice part about some of this, Scottsdale Robotics, and the next one, AZ Gyne, is if you're on a copay driven plan, there is zero cost share to the member if you actually use those two facilities for a surgical procedure. So we're talking about knee replacement, hip replacement at zero cost share. So that is key to remember on those copay driven plans. The high deductible plans, God bless you, members do have to hit the IRS minimum deductible. So that's nothing that we can do. The IRS has opinions about that. But as soon as you hit your deductible, you don't have coinsurance after that for those two services. AZ Gyne, to touch on that a little bit, we know school districts have a high female population. AZ Gyne comes into play. They are available for zero cost or low cost gynecological surgeries as well. So, another direct contract that we have partnered with to answer some of the high claims cost and to increase access to care. CAREM substance abuse program is new, and we are thrilled to offer this because, again, after COVID, we've seen an uptick in substance use treatment needed. So again, with this program, this is actually free of charge for somebody if they needed that substance use program. It's through a partnership with an organization called the Meadows. So if you did have someone, we're trying to partner with our school districts to educate people going out on FMLA. If we suspect that there might be a need for a substance use program, this is a free inpatient or outpatient intensive program. So a great resource to offer to our teachers and staff. Quest Select is transitioning a little bit. It doesn't have the heavy hit as much as we do on some of the other programs. It's basically discounted labs. It's not a huge issue for those of us in Maricopa County because we have so many to choose from. Quantify and a new program called Archimedes we are bringing into the program to help manage specialty pharmacy cost. So, as I mentioned before, that is one of the leading cost drivers in any program. So, we are implementing a white glove service through Archimedes that is going to outreach providers, doctors' offices, and say, we see that you're on this medication. Have you considered that medication, which may present a cost savings for the same efficacy? So we're going down that path as well. And then finally, we're exploring two new programs, cancer prevention and treatment programs, and gastrointestinal care programs as well, because we've seen an uptick in those claims. I talked to you a little bit, I bragged a little bit about the Kairos Dream Team already. That's my team, participant advocates, account managers, and nurse navigators. Here's a little specific about Osborne claims. Now, this is a little bit older. It's all of last plan year. If I were to bring you data right now, it would be just a portion of the year because of the lag in claims. But last plan year, we had about 272 employees enrolled, 336 lives. Those additional lives are the kiddos or the spouses that are enrolled. Average family size is about 1.24. You can see here medical spend year over year. The green column is the most current year, and our medical spend dropped pretty significantly, about 26%. However, the pharmacy cost increased about 32%. And that is not unique to Osborne. That's happening across the board throughout the country. And again, if you turn on the news, you'll see those numbers. We like to splice the data in several different ways, but you can see here again, pharmacy per employee per month. You'll see that acronym PEPM. Pharmacy is our one that we're seeing that spike in, so that echoes what we saw on the previous slide. We also look at outpatient facilities, inpatient facilities, and office visits. I'll tell you, we see an uptick in the office visits, and I will take that all day long because office visits are where we want to see people going for care. We're hoping that avoids the high cost medications and the inpatient and outpatient facilities.
So this is Osborne specific, is that right?
Yes, this
Okay.
is Osborne. Yes, thank you. High cost claims, you'll see that this year, so in 23-24, we had a little bit higher claims year. So we had a higher loss ratio. This year, we've actually done a little bit better. So you see that reflected here. Our high cost claims have a threshold for this reporting purpose. We can change it at 50,000. So this most recent year, we had 4 claims over 50,000, resulting in about $351,000. So it's always interesting when we talk about that pie chart and where are we spending our dollars today. We know that 86% on that pie chart was related to medical claims and 351,000 was tied to just 4 people. So it's usually just the top 1 to 2% that are really doing the driving of a lot of the claims in the health plan. Okay. Some of them we just can't manage. They just happen. We had a young lady fall into a fire pit. Life happens. But it did become a high cost claimant. So we do our best to manage the ones that we can control. Top 5 diagnosis groups. So health status encounters are the typical wellness, preventive, sick visits, going to see the doctor. We'll take that all day long. Neurological disorders, 136,000, gastro, mental health, and then musculoskeletal disorders, which we saw the need for aware PT. And then 21% of plan spend is claims over $50,000. And that is it for now. I am open to answer any questions you have. Sure.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? That was very informative. Thank you so much.
I told you I'm an insurance nerd. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So the action item, we're recommending that the governing board approve the 26-27 employee fringe benefit plans and premiums for the upcoming school year. As Jennifer just shared, we had a fairly good performance claim year, especially as we're looking at the rates that are before you tonight, has then additional claim history beyond what she showed there through June, all the way through the next quarter into this school year. So this is one of our lowest increase years, which we're very excited about. At 4.3% of an increase for medical, which again, I feel is a really, really good performance year compared to nationwide trends, as well as state trends, as well as even just other members within the pool and how they were performing, which is great. And we're going to have those up or down years, as Jennifer explained, but part of the benefit of being in the pool is that shared risk and long-term sustainability of the members in the pool. We had slight increases, very minimal in some of the other voluntary products such as dental, vision, and in the attachments there in the board packet. The difference per month as those Additional products are voluntary products that employees can choose, but it's 100% premium cost to the employee. The district contributes to medical, not necessarily to dental, vision, and those others. So you can kind of see what that 2% or 1%, 3% increase in some of the voluntary products, what that changes on a monthly average to those employees. But 4.3% is approximately $90,000 to the employer's cost share annually. So that's the increase that we're looking at. Not all of that is funded from our maintenance and operations budget, as a portion of every employee's premium is funded from where their position is funded from. So as we have some employees funded from grant funds, state funds, federal funds, that increased cost of $90,000 is spread over multiple funds in the district next year.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the employee fringe benefits for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to our recommendation to approve contract issuance for 26-27 support professionals, classified exempt, and administrator contracts.
Hello. Protocol having already been established, I'm here to make the recommendation to issue contracts for a 26-27 school year. This will include our support professionals, psychologists, class exempt, and administrative contracts. You'll recall at the last board meeting, you did already approve the contract language for these particular employee groups. In the background, you'll see all of the specific employee titles included, and the recommendation is to issue them at midnight.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? All right, do we have a motion? Oh, yeah, go for it.
This includes the social workers.
That is correct.
This includes, as I understand it, is that 3 social worker positions?
That is correct.
And then I'm confident, once we get that grant again, which we won't know until June, that money will be backfilled. Is that correct?
It depends on if we receive the grant and for which campuses the grant is rewarded for. But
Okay,
that
so
is
possible we
the
don't get the
plan.
grant for every one.
It would be fantastic if we got the grant for all of our campuses.
That, like we have
Then,
right now.
like we have right now,
Yeah.
then not only would it be 3, it would be for all of the campuses, and we wouldn't be incurring any costs. But the costs that we are having for social workers for next year is coming out of M&O.
Yes, unless we get the grant.
Correct.
And then that comes back to us, right?
Correct.
Right now we have 5 social workers, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And then the 3 that we're talking about, again, then I will take us in a scenario, hypothetical, we say we don't get the grant. Or the 3 social workers are going to be where exactly?
That is not my decision to make. That would be the Director of Student Services.
Okay. Any idea, any thoughts, Dr. Robert?
So it's going to, I mean, obviously it's going to be job share. So it's a matter of all of our campuses will be covered in terms of social work services. It's just not determined who's going to be at which campus. So we're working on that right now.
Okay. I would like to see, look, 5 social workers they're working hard. I see them out there. They are moving heaven and earth, and are a lot of the first faces you see, our families see when they come onto campus, and the last family faces they see when they're covering some sort of after school program, right? And I really would like to see us have 5, and 3 for as many students as we have. 2,300 students, to have 3 social workers is just not enough. And so I would like to see us have 5 and find the money to have 5, and then not wait until June. Too is a tough time to start hiring it. It's gonna be a challenge. I'm really glad to have 3. I was terrified when I was worried it was going to be, we weren't going to be having any. But I would like to see us have 5, because I think that role is so crucial.
What I can say to that is your budget committee is working very hard on this right now. But the what we have before you is, it will be the issuance of the contracts for the 3 social workers right now. And absolutely heard loud and clear and understood, especially in light of everything that we're experiencing. We know the impact that our social workers are having on our campuses.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. With that, any other questions or comments? All right. Do we have a motion for action item B?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you
you.
so much. All right. Next item is the gifted scope and sequence.
Brendan, can you go to slide? Oh,
Or we could do it.
Oh, well. Bear with us.
Don't get dizzy.
I know.
Good evening, President Ramos, board members. We are thrilled to be before you again to provide you with additional information. We were honestly very grateful for the thoughtful questions that came our way in our first presentation, and as such, really went back and did some really good reflecting. We reached out to our state, our district gifted learner consultant. We chatted with several people at schools and are excited to share with you, again, some additional information that really supports the scope and sequence. And so, with further ado, I was doing fine before. All right, so we briefly mentioned our gifted learner advisors as we were talking about the scope and sequence. And in our reflection and really deep thinking following our initial presentation, we realized how important and pivotal this role is going to be in order to carry out the scope and sequence. And so the next slide talks about the funding that we've already secured, but we know that we need to have a lead advisor who does have a gifted endorsement, kind of to make sure that we're bringing in all the updated research and best practices that our gifted students deserve. And so we have actually identified a lead advisor who does have her gifted endorsement. And so she is going to be leading at the district level and also then supporting a gifted advisor at each site. She will help us, again, with the professional development as well as making sure identification processes are in place, the programming, and then, of course, managing the gifted plans. And so in more detail then, we also see this as a wonderful leadership opportunity. We have mentor teachers, we have master teachers, and so this becomes, as an added benefit, just another opportunity for folks at each site to be able to show some leadership. And so with our Title IV funds, and Title IV funds have really specific requirements in terms of how we can use them, and one of the 3 buckets is well-rounded education, and so this is a perfect funding source to leverage as we identify the stipends for these advisors. And so again, we have a total of $10,000 that we were able to pull from Title IV. $1,500 will go to each site leader, and then the lead advisor will get $2,000. The plan is to have our gifted learner plans in place by September of the following year, which would then allow us to have our AASA data from the spring and also our fall benchmark data. And so that will just have the most up-to-date data possible in order to get those plans written and really written well. And so in order to do that, to set us up to have well-written plans, our gifted lead will lead some professional learning over the summer, as well as help us think through what is our long-range plan for those systems that we have in place, some accountability checks to make sure that those plans are happening, the structures that we want to see at every site, and then the plan for professional development for our teachers who are working with our gifted students. And that would, again, be a summer workshop that we're excited to start planning. She is giddy with excitement thinking about it and has probably already planned half the day. So another exciting lead that we got actually in speaking with our gifted learner consultant at the state is that she is building, as we speak,
coursework that leads to endorsement. It's a pathway to endorsement. And so right now there is one course already online that is virtual and can be self-paced, and she's building another. And so I think part of our workshop will be taking part in that, as well as thinking about ways and incentives for teachers to do that as well. And so we're really excited about that opportunity and to have that connection with our ADE consultant. The plans themselves, thinking more strategically about those, Melissa will talk about those.
Yeah, so this is the plan we currently have in place for our gifted students. And you can just see, and I know it's hard to see the specific items there, but all of those ones right in that first column can be pre-populated. We have systems, student information systems and data systems that do that. We can also just use a merge to do that. And so that kind of takes some of the lift off of these advisors and the teachers. Yeah. And then also we do know that the language for some of these, like the goals up there for samples, and then also right underneath that, I know it's a little tough to see, there's strategies for what the students may need for their modifications and differentiation. And so we'll be able to support the advisor, the head advisor, and the site advisors with different scenarios and samples. And so they're not really just also working from the ground up, that they've already got a pool of information that they can pull from to best support the students. And of course, the plan would be something that it's not done in isolation. Of course, the students' opinions and the family would also be part of it. But we want to just really help take the lift off of it and just set everybody up for success with these plans.
Oh, you're fine. And so, wrong way. So finally, really thinking about, I know there was a concern about this change potentially shifting resources away from our students that really do need those extra resources. And so we just kind of did some math and wanted to put it in a visual way for us to kind of see. So, $10,000 is what we were able to secure. Again, this is a very important mandate from the state, and yet unfunded. And so we're grateful to have those Title IV funds to be able to use. When we think about all the other supports that we have in place for our students, we struggled with the term, but who might need remediation. We have 21st century funds that are specifically reserved for students who need that additional academic support. We have a literacy tutor at one of our schools specifically supporting students who need that support. We have a specific intervention programs in place to support. Summer school is obviously for our students who really need that extra push. And then, of course, our foundational literacy coaches, we're great. We have a grant for that, but that is the cost for those specific coaches. So we just wanted to provide that visual in terms of the dollars that are spent. I believe that is our last slide in terms of just the additional information that we wanted to bring to you. So we'll pause there for any additional questions or comments.
Thank you so much. That was really, really great. Do we have any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to say thank you to both Abby and Melissa for all the work you did on this. I know that at our last meeting, I had a lot of questions, and thank you for being open to feedback and making those changes so we can have like a very sustainable, attainable program here in Osborne because our families are asking for it. And so thank you very much for all the work you did on this.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. Yes.
A couple of questions, and thanks so much again for all the effort and time and the follow-up conversations that we've had about this since last meeting too. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a little bit of a frog in my throat, so I apologize for everyone suffering through this. But the biggest question I have, the resources here are very helpful. What I want to make sure is that in terms of additional staff time that we're using, I think it's really critical that the staff effort and time and resources that we have at our disposal can be used especially for the students who need the most support to reach attainment of standards that way. And as you can tell, I'm a little bit skeptical and just want to make sure that if we're adding time for teachers or other specialists to our most gifted students, that we are not missing an opportunity to use that additional opportunity to be helping our students who need the most support to reach standards. So just a couple of questions there. Especially the stipends that you mentioned before, those Title IV funds, are we able to use those funds for helping our students who are not at the attainment levels, at high attainment levels right now?
We are not. So again, Title IV has 3 buckets that we can use to spend the funds. And so well-rounded education is one. And so that speaks to like our special areas, the arts. Gifted education is a perfect example. A second bucket is safe and healthy schools. I think we pull a little bit of like our lead psychologist stipend out of there. And then technology is the third bucket. So you could maybe get a little creative and do that, but that would not meet the spirit of those funds.
Okay. A couple other questions there. So the gifted leads that we were talking about, you said, if I understood correctly, we're able to train an additional gifted lead for the district. Is that right?
She is she will be a site lead, but also then she's stepping in and putting that like district lead hat on. So she is she's actually one of our foundational literacy coaches.
Okay. And okay, that's very helpful. So that's not an additional new position. That is someone who's already here.
Correct.
That is, with the additional stipend, is investing additional time
Correct.
into investing in
Yes,
that.
so this is an addendum to their contract. So any really efforts that they put in place to meet these addenda would happen outside of their regular job. And her regular day job is supporting the students who do need that extra push, actually.
And if I understand correctly, the main policy change, in addition to what you've presented here, which I think is in response especially to the resources that we need for the individual student plans, is that right?
Correct.
And is that contingent upon us expanding the program from the top 5% to 10% of students who qualify?
All the additional bullets that we've presented here?
That's right, yeah.
Not necessarily.
Got it.
And
Well,
I would
the gifted learner plans are required, though.
Right. So that's the additional time. So the resources that we have identified that are exclusively used for this gifted program, that's what we will be using to fulfill that plan, to draft those plans for the additional students in this program. Is that right? The additional.
all students who have been identified. So we will do a little backtracking to make sure all students who have been identified up to this point have a gifted plan and are able to meet all the programs and specifics that we've identified in the scope and sequence. And then yes, if and when the bar that is we've proposed to be 90% is approved, then we'll be, I think it was 18 additional students.
And I did look into those. I really appreciated your question. So we had 18 and they were sprinkled across the full nine grade levels, maybe 8, because I don't think any were 8th graders, and then across sites, across grade levels. So even though 18 doesn't seem like an insignificant number, and it's not, when you think of across 6 schools and multiple grade levels, it's not like one teacher or one coach or one gifted learner advisor would have the bulk of those.
Okay, that's helpful.
And maybe it wasn't in a slide, but I think it's important to note that in speaking with our state consultant, the average cut point of our districts in Arizona is between 90 and 95. So we're well within the average of all of our neighboring districts and here in the state.
That's great. And maybe can you just speak to one more time the demand and the ask that we're getting from our community to expand this program and why we think this is the right move to make right now?
Are you specifically talking about the moving the cut score down to 90? Yeah, so I feel really strongly about this because we do it's really important to have, it's a best practice in gifted education to have those local norms because it's a matter of equity. So for example, if we did not do that, we would have at least one site that wouldn't have any children identified as gifted. And so we can see that based off of our population, the students that really need that additional support and the differentiation, they are around that norm of 90. And again, if you think of the standard deviation, a student who's that high is significantly higher. But that's one of the reasons that local norms are really important. Do you have anything else to add on that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that if we didn't have this at the 90th percentile, then there'd be one site that wouldn't have any students designated as gifted.
As of right now, that always changes year to year, but it is if you look across multiple years, you can see more variation in demographics. And we don't necessarily know like socioeconomic status, but across ethnicities and across Trying to think of also EL students and SPED, so it's more inclusive. But again, that 90 threshold is really typical with the state. It's also, it would allow our students to have a label with us, and so when they go to Phoenix Union, it's not like, oh, I was a 94 in Osborne, so I didn't qualify, and now I go to Central and I did qualify. So it's consistent with our community as well.
Okay. And I guess just the last question I will have. It sounds like based on this plan and what you've put together, you're telling us that there is no opportunity cost to the students who need the most support to meet grade level standards by enacting this program. Is that right? In terms of, in both, I think mostly in human resources, so that by putting this plan forward, we are not taking anything off the table for what we can do for our students who we need to bring up to grade level.
Yeah, if you have a student at the 90th percentile, and I'm turning because I'm like, which teachers do we have in here? You're already having to do extra work to differentiate and support those students. And so from that, like, I really appreciate that because our teachers do work really hard and their time is limited. And so there are a lot of those students, they're already doing that work. The nice thing about actually giving them the formal label is that we can guarantee through the gifted learner plans and the tracking that they're not going to fall through the cracks, and that we can make sure that those students are also progressing, which again is something that's one of the reasons on the gifted learner plan. A lot of that's automated. We just need to make sure we have a system in place to keep looking at it. And then for the financial costs, no, because of Title IV.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I will also add that through my just lived experiences of when I was a kid, I was really bored when I didn't have those extra resources. And actually, I was a gifted student, and my grades dipped when I didn't have that extra help. And so where I was an honor roll student, and then when I that was gifted program was not available, I was not an honor roll student anymore because I was extremely bored. And so we definitely want to make sure we're looking at all of our students and this population. I mean, it's that money that you were able to find is not going to pull from the other students, and I know that. And so thank you so much for all of the, you know, intent that you put into ensuring that we have all of our answers. All right, do we have a motion for action item C?
I move to approve the gifted scope and sequence as presented.
I'll second.
We have a second. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, so we're moving on to action item D, approval of child nutrition GMP O2 kitchen equipment early procurement.
Okay. You may remember that at the February meeting, we had GMP 1, which was the early procurement of those equipment items that we needed for the site school kitchen, improvements, renovations, because of lead time and wanting to make sure that we got those orders in on the equipment so that they'll be here and be ready for install this summer as we're looking to move forward with all of the school kitchen renovations and then cafeteria dining renovation spaces at Solano and OMS this summer. And so we want to maximize on that very small summer window, but we feel very confident that it'll be able to be done in time for school opening at the end of July. This GMP2 from Chase Construction is just over 2.5 million, which will be 100% coming from bond funds.
Do we have any questions?
Just to clarify on this one, so this is all expenditures that will happen in schools for facilities that serve student meals and the spaces in which the students eat those meals. Is that right?
Yes, this is all 5 sites with the exception of the 6th site of Montecito, as that kitchen and cafeteria renovation is part of the Montecito GMP that the board has already approved.
Sounds good.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, and our last action item, the approval of procurement for bond projects.
We have two bond projects that we're bringing forward tonight that we are looking for the board to approve utilization of these co-op contracts. Again, at the February meeting, this was kind of that first time the board had seen, and I went into a little bit lengthier explanation of how co-op contracts work, and that formal procurement has already been completed. This would be utilizing the Arizona State procurement contract for Dominion Environmental for some ARA inspections and management plans at the sites listed, and then utilizing a 1 GPA cooperative contract for Pueblo Mechanical for HVAC upgrades at Solano School.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
Um, Colleen, what is an AHERA inspection?
It's an ARA inspection, and I'm going to defer to Mr. Garcia to explain it better than I could.
Okay, thank you so much.
It's
AHERA.
a HERA inspection, and it's an asbestos containing material. So all building, like in this room, we would test the ceiling, actually above the ceiling grid, the wall, the carpet. They're going to take samples in areas that won't be seen to ensure that we have a safe environment, and it's required by law.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, and we have some informational items. So the FY25 school district spending report.
Right. I think Brendan, are you able to? Okay. Great. So there's a link embedded in the board page in the packet that Brendan just clicked on that takes us over to the Auditor General's website where we have statewide, and you can drill down to individual districts. And so this is linked right to the Osborne district information. I'm just going to kind of scroll through and highlight some of those areas. Dr. Barr, I don't know if you wanted to kind of did you want to give a quick introduction of just the overall, what the school spending report entails and kind of the history of that?
Sure. Yeah. So this spending report referred to a lot of times as dollars in the classroom report. That's although it talks about more than just dollars in the classroom, that's been a big focus of this report. Whenever it comes out, people are looking to see what are those dollars that are spent in the classroom, and so as I pointed out in my updates to governing board members, we kind of, when you first got this notice from the Auditor General, I gave you a little bit of a primer about that classroom spending. So you can see, and Colleen's going to go into this, I think, more in depth, but that classroom spending, it's important to recognize that it's broken into 3 areas: instruction, student support, and instruction support. Those are all under what is considered classroom spending. When you see on this report how it's broken into that, that there's that label at the top that says classroom spending, 66.8%. And you see how it's broken into 3 sections that talks about instruction, student support, instructional support. There was a task force that was put together. Colleen, can you remember how many years ago that was? Maybe 5 years ago or so?
Maybe a little longer than that.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
There was a task force that was put together looking at this classroom spending. And the recommendation when having this discussion of classroom dollars, recognizing that those student supports, that those instructional supports are going straight to students, the recommendation from that committee that never made it into the report was that breaking that down, a differentiation, was never supposed to happen. All 3 of those were supposed to become what was considered classroom spending. And I'm not sure exactly why it came through. The man behind the curtain, I guess, made some things happen. But you can see getting to a point where we have over 60% just in classroom support. I guess a couple things about that. Number one, there are some fixed costs. So we have no control over gas prices right now. We have to pay for that. We have no control over food costs. We have to pay for that. So how could we bring more into classroom spending? Well, if we were, number one, we can't handle those fixed costs. But when we look at, number one, how much we're spending in the classroom among all three areas, it's fantastic. Then when you think about who we are as a community and how much we're putting in instructional support, and or let me say the student support. So things like social workers. If we want to push more dollars just straight into instruction itself, we can do that, but at the cost of student support. And that's not something that this board has demonstrated that we're willing to do just to get that blue part of the uh, circle more filled. We have a commitment to our community to serve the whole child, to make sure that our kids are emotionally supported and taken care of. And so I think this report, and Colleen's going to go into far more details, but it demonstrates that we do a fantastic job of putting our dollars that we actually have some say on, not those fixed costs, but where we have the money for meeting the needs of our students. We're doing so at a fantastic rate at that 66.8% of the dollars that we get are going to our students in the classroom, whether it's through direct instruction, student supports, or instructional supports.
Mhm. Thank you. Yes, and so I would just as an example, so what, like when you think of instructional supports, those are direct supports to then the instructor that then is, so like that would be like our master teachers, whereas then those student supports are like your psychologists, your therapists, your social workers, and those supports that are providing direct services to students, but not the direct classroom teacher. So if you want to kind of just scroll down slightly for me there, Brendan, thank you. So this first little, just past that pie chart. Oh, and I will also mention that this is not just looking at our maintenance and operations budget from the state. This is looking at all of our dollars that we receive, local, state, federal, how that on average each dollar is spent. So kind of gives you a history of that instructional spending. Again, this bullet is just looking at that blue portion history, not the three things that go into classroom spending. This is just isolating that instructional, direct instruction piece. You can kind of keep scrolling down a little bit there. We get into the middle here. These are some interactive charts, graphs that you can kind of play with. So on the left-hand side there, it gives you a history, and you can look at a 5-year comparison of percentage changes over those 6 categories between classroom spending and non-classroom spending, or a 1-year comparison. And it's just comparing Osborne to itself over 1 year or 5 year. Important to note there, just kind of want to highlight, you can see that the shift, especially if we look at the 5-year, is that shift in where we were at with instruction to then additional supports. So again, to Dr. Robert's point, when we invest in those student supports, it pulls from the blue instruction category. And then off to the right-hand side there, this is where you can compare Osborne to the state or to peer averages. And so I like to look at our peer group. How are we doing compared to our peer averages, and then again to the state. But I think our peer group is really important because they're looking at districts of similar size in the metro area, and how we map out there. The district's classroom spending exceeds our peer group average by just under $1,400 per student. I think that's huge that we're spending that much more per student in those 3 areas of classroom spending than our peer group average. And then when you compare that in our total expenditures across classroom and non-classroom, we exceed our peer group average by close to $1,700 per pupil. So I feel like we're doing very, very well in putting those dollars where they need to be as every dollar comes in from multiple sources to the district. If you scroll down slightly, Brendan, the bottom of that chart has some gets into non-operational items. Those costs are not included in the first pie graph. This varies when you have bonds in place. So in years that you might not be operating a heavy bond program, you're going to see your expenditures there in land and buildings equipment be much lower than peer or state average groups. So especially interest, that's your debt service payoffs, those kind of things. So those will fluctuate as you have active bond programs, construction happening. If we kind of continue to scroll down, then we get into how do we compare within certain operational areas? So they look at administration. We are low compared to our peer average and what we spend per pupil in administrative costs. And then looking at plant operations, we are comparable. Food service comparable. And then transportation, we tend to run on average year over year, we tend to run high in our peer average for transportation costs. Part of that reason is our heavy amount of McKinney-Vento students that we have here in Central Phoenix that we then are transporting longer distances, which incur costs, and we often have to outsource those transportation routes to contracted companies, which cost much more than doing those in-house. If we kind of continue to scroll
Colleen, and you probably don't know this off the top of your head. Just maybe get Dr. Robert give me the information later. But how many McKinney-Vento students are we talking about?
I don't know. I will get that number for you.
Yeah, that's right. Have somebody get that to me. Thank you.
If we continue to kind of scroll down there, we get into enrollment, and you can see that it's looking, and this report is based on last year, so FY25, it's showing that in the green because we saw that last year enrollment increase. I would expect that then next March, when we're looking at FY26, we're going to see that back down as we know we're down kids this year. And then we get into average teacher salary. And a lot of different ways in this report that the state breaks out and looks at average teacher salary. Average teacher salary, they look at it in a lot of different ways between how much is coming from classroom site fund as a portion of those average salaries, and then looks at it between teachers that are in their first 3 years, teachers that are more than 3 years in their profession career. And so as a percentage, in FY25, Osborne's percentage of teachers in their first 3 years was 27%, and our average teacher salary increased by 2% from the previous year. So comparing FY24 to FY25, our average teacher salary was just under 64.5 thousand, which is not high enough. I will say that over and over again. We need to be able to pay our teachers more. And so if we kind of keep scrolling down there, Brendan, this is that chart that I was referring to where it looks at the amount of that 64,000 that Osborne funds from Classroom Site Fund, or what is often referred to as Prop 301, is just under $11,000 on average per teacher. And then you can kind of see there the 27 and then 73% of teachers in their 4th year or later. If we scroll down, there's a chart right below this that gives you a longer history. So you can see the 10-year history of Osborne there in teacher salaries and how we compared to the state average. You'll notice there that those of you that will remember the Ducey 20 by 20, you can kind of see that's kind of when those years when Osborne jumped up and we were kind of exceeding that state average there. And then looking at then that dip, looking at the data, I feel like that correlates to when we have a larger percentage of teachers in Osborne in their first 3 years of their profession. We know that they've placed lower on our placement salary schedule because we don't have as many years of experience at time of placement. And so when we see those averages, if you kind of scroll down a little bit more, Brendan, for me, right there, in years that we've had higher. So for example, even in FY23, we had 40% of our teachers in FY23 in their first 3 years of teaching. So positive note though, by FY25, that number had gone down to 27%. So that means that we were seeing, I correlate that to more retention and all of HR's efforts and our site efforts and making sure that we're retaining those teachers and staying with us beyond those first 3 years of their profession. So there's a lot of information on this one page that you can go in a lot of different directions with and really dig into. And then compare our page to other districts and see, oh, well, how does that look in that peer group or that district that's in our peer group? And so there's a lot you could do. The last section of the report is student achievement. And again, how do we do compared to peer and state average in student achievement?
And one thing on the student achievement, can you scroll a little bit more down a little bit? Okay, just right there. So on the left-hand side, you can see district, peer group, and statewide for math, ELA, science. 2 quick notes on this. Number one, we've seen in terms of letter grades through ASA, Zella, all of those things that go into our A through F letter grades. We're a B district, which is fantastic, and we are making moves. You can see numerically what the proficiency percentages are. A big portion of that's worth 30% of the total score. 50% can come through growth, and so we do fantastic with growth. And because we see that we're not going to make that move towards having A schools without higher proficiency, that's why our whole mantra, this year, from the beginning of the year through now, has been about academic excellence. That piece of our district mission. And from what we've gotten, I believe it was in the February meeting when we looked at our benchmark data. I think we're in really good shape going into spring assessments. Looking forward to seeing how our students do over the next month and a half, and bringing these percentages up. I do encourage you to always go in and look at data files, because that data, our numbers are correct, but the peer group data is not. So in math, that 16%, the peer group is actually 19%. The ELA, the peer group isn't actually 27%, it's 25%. And in science, the peer group actually isn't 20%, it's 19%. And I'm going to have Brendan just navigate for me. Brendan, can you go all the way up to the top? If you guys just want to go into the charts and just see, like, when we talk about different peer groups, like an achievement peer group. So drop down, keep going up a little bit more. Go into glossary. Yep, and then go down to district peer groups. And we get 3 different peer groups. So there's an operational peer group, and there go the explanations. Keep going down. There's a transportation peer group. Keep going down. And then there's an achievement peer group. If you scroll down a little bit more to the paragraph under, right there, that paragraph under the bottom says to see a full listing of the districts in each peer group, click on the resources pages. That's going to bring you to a spreadsheet. And when you actually pop that open, yeah, that was it. And then you can scroll down and you can look at the tabs at the bottom and go over to the achievement. And so we are group 11, peer group 11. So you can see there's a listing. Unified districts, we're not unified, so keep going down. And so we fit into a category of elementary districts with a poverty level between a certain percent and another. So between 16% and I think it's 24%. And you can see the list of districts there. So we are in the same achievement peer group as Creighton, Fowler, Roosevelt. So that list of districts that are there. Mind you, those districts may not be the same for operational or for transportation. So I really do encourage you to dig into the files. Sometimes the translation from the Excel files into what goes on to the actual report doesn't match up exactly. So, in my review, those numbers didn't match up. But this is just something that you can dig into just to kind of see who actually is in our peer group. And the group right below it, from 149 on down, that is the highest poverty elementary city achievement peer group. So that's above 22% community poverty. We fit into the 16 to 22%. So you can see the districts, just to give you an idea of the financial demographic and where we fall into. So apples to apples, right? This gives you an idea of that academic, not just our academic outcomes, but academic outcomes within others that fit into that poverty range that Osborne School District does.
Are there any questions on the spending report?
No. Thank you so much. That was super informative. All right, so moving on to our OEA update.
Good evening, President Ramos, members of the Governing Board, and Superintendent Dr. Robert. Tonight, OEA would like to veer from our typical update to acknowledge the recent loss of our colleague and fellow union member Bree. Our thoughts are with Bree's family, her students, co-workers, and the Encanto and Montecito communities who are deeply feeling this loss. We also want to express our sincere appreciation to the district for their communication during this difficult time. We are also very grateful to the social workers across the district who have been supporting students and colleagues who may need it. Out of respect for this difficult time and recognizing that many are still processing this loss, we will be canceling the OEA general meeting scheduled for Thursday at Longview. We'll provide further meet and confer updates at another time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to our last information item, which is the Child Nutrition Center information and updates.
All right, team, step up. Well, thank you so much. We wanted to take an opportunity. We came to you at the end of last year with some ideas with the Child Nutrition Center through our bond, and there were lots of questions, and so we thought we need to break this down before we bring site plans and things like that. We wanted to get back to the why. How did we come to this point of getting community support for a bond for different projects? And so we're going to step back and look at that from the context of looking at the Child Nutrition Center. We've got a presentation tonight, and we've got a team. So Colleen McCabe, of course, you know. Corey Alexander's presented to you many times. Teresa Massa has presented to you as well. So we're glad to have them. Rejoining us is Mark Rafferty from Facility Management Group. Mark has been with us for a long time, and you guys approved his contract for bond project management services. So among the five of us, we're going to give a little bit of a presentation about the intended impact of this Child Nutrition Center. Really important that we're focusing not on a building, we're focusing on how we can meet student needs every single day here within the district.
Right. So I'll kind of start with the kind of how we got here, what the process was that we went through in determining what the capital projects for this $100 million bond program were going to look like, and the identified need for the Child Nutrition Center. So we did a capital needs assessment in the 22-23 school year. That involved looking at what facility improvements were needed. We looked at life cycle replacement schedules and specific program needs, and not just programs within child nutrition program or dual language programs, but also looking at just overall all of our academic programs, instructional spaces as well. And so as a result, we pulled together that capital needs assessment, and then we developed and pulled together a capital needs committee. And that committee was made up of 15 plus members from staff, parents, community. We had a board member, Ms. Greenberg, served on our capital needs committee. And they met multiple times throughout the spring of 2023 to help prioritize the capital projects that were identified through that needs assessment. Because we had multiple, as most districts do, we did in previous bond programs, the list of needs is often longer than what the bonding capacity is that you can go out for, you feel comfortable going out to your voters for at that time. And so they helped us prioritize those capital needs and then recommended a call for election to the governing board, that kind of wrapping up in that spring of 2023. One of the key projects that came out of that capital needs committee work was the child nutrition program needs and their need for a child nutrition center to expand and really be able to operate from a central service program. Facility limitations were repeatedly identified and talked about as we did site walks in those identifying program needs and facility improvements, looking at how their expansion of scratch cooking was being limited in that expansion because of the limitations of their square footage and their storage space in their facilities. And then really looking at, we want to expand on nutrition education where we don't have space to do that. We don't have space to bring in larger groups. And then looking at operational costs. There is a cost to us by not having the space and the facility to help offset buying more in bulk, bringing in more at once. And Corey's going to get into more of those details. So as a process that the Capital Needs Committee went through, then we looked at, is there other current facilities with feasible space? And I'm going to let Mark kind of walk us through that process that the committee went through.
It's good to be back.
Good to have you back, Mark.
Thanks. I can remember. That was everything I was going to say, basically. But just a little deeper than that was, so my company facilitated the Capital Needs Committee. And one of the most special projects that we talked about teaching and learning spaces. We talked about playground equipment, all that stuff that was needed, technology, transportation. But it was child nutrition, because Corey brought a passion and a complete set of thoughts about this nutrition program to this committee. And, I've been involved in public K-12 for 25 years, and I'd never heard anybody really put passion into the nutrition of the children the way that he did. So that really took off. It was always at the top of our list and on all of our committee lists. And in fact, it became you all know this, but it became an actual line item on the bond information pamphlet, that specific project. So we looked at the facilities, and my company managed the previous bond, the 2017 bond, I think. So we're very familiar with all the kitchens at all the schools. We're very familiar with Sherry's, and then Corey's space back here in the back, and the most they were really shoehorned into that space in the last bond. We wanted to expand it's a storage area. It's not really a warehouse. We wanted to expand the storage area, but there was nowhere to go with it. So it stayed the way that it was. None of the kitchens were affected at the school sites. So we started looking for an option to that condition. So we looked for space that already existed. And there really isn't any of that in this district, with the exception of the auditorium at Longview. So we took a hard look at the auditorium at Longview, and it's a fine old building, and it's kind of it's sort of a relic. It's sort of a piece that you wouldn't want to change just because of how long it's been there. And when it was built, Indian School was a 3-lane road, and the 51 wasn't there. So it was a much different part of town when that was built. Now, even if it had a flat floor, and even if it had all new utilities and new HVAC and a new roof, and the list goes on and on, even if it had all of that, it's not an accessible building. It's not commercially accessible. And there's just no way that the district it would have been impossible to get the city to agree with the traffic that would have had to have been put into that from a zoning point of view. So we moved on from that, and I think noticed that there was I'd asked, the facilities director, because I'd been here for years, and I'd never seen anyone on that ball field over there next to the fuel islands. Never, even when we were replacing the fuel islands. And as it turns out, that the only time that was used by the school district was when you were mowing it. And I mean, that's really true. A couple of foul balls got hit over 11th Street, and a neighbor put up a net, so we got the new easy hand gestures, got the new domed backstop, and it was never used. So it just made a perfect spot. It's a central service. This is the central location. Even Longview, again, if all the other things weren't wrong, it's the edge of the boundary. That's not where you would put a central kitchen location. You put it where like you do it like your bus routes. So that's really all I'm sort of the historic marker here. If you have any questions.
When you say commercially accessible, are you talking about getting big semis in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And even box trucks, because, and even if it weren't for the solar arrays that are on that site, a 24 or 30-foot box truck cannot make that. You got to back out. So, and and the district just allowed Head Start to put a new Head Start there right up against that parking lot. So
that takes you historically back to 22, 23 when we did the capital needs assessment. So that set the stage for us going out for the bond. I'm going to invite Corey and Teresa to come up, and they're going to talk about some programmatic features from a cooking perspective and from an education perspective. So turn it over to the two of you.
Good evening, President Ramos, members of the board, and Dr. Robert. Thank you for, on behalf of the Child Nutrition Department, thank you for giving us this time to talk more about the Child Nutrition Center and how it will positively impact every student every day. First, I wanted to start out by pulling up a trends report. This is a survey that went out in October of 2025. And it's a national survey. It went out to other nutrition directors, such as myself. I took part in the survey. And these are the results of the survey. And basically what the survey was asking was, with the new regulations and your current program, what are some challenges and what are your needs? The top 5 challenges: food costs, labor costs, and equipment costs. First 3 challenges are costs. We know that food has gone up, we know that labor's gone up, and equipment is extremely expensive. Regulatory burdens, as new regulations come out, changes to our program is burdensome when we are operating under different set of regulations, and new regulations come out, often underfunded. And then limited culinary skills among staff. And that's the reason for that is because the new regulations include things like more scratch cooking, more whole foods, that type of thing. So what did directors say? And I kind of want you to keep that in your mind as we go through these slides. You know, what we're saying and why we're saying it, and then what we're hoping for on a local level to help us, you know, kind of overcome these barriers. Funding. Funding, $4.70. That is our funding that we get for every student lunch. That covers our food costs, our supplies, our labor, our benefits, any equipment that breaks, anything that we have to do for our department, for our students, essentially. $4.71 every day. Time to test recipes, menu development. That is why you often see centralized locations for nutrition departments so that they have a space to develop and test recipes on scale. It's one thing to cook in your kitchen or in a smaller kitchen, make smaller batches, but to really scale that out and make sure that that product is consistent among your sites, that's different. And you know, recipes, when you multiply them by 100 or 500, they don't taste the same at that point. So culinary training, that is something that, you know, I know that we're fortunate. We do have, you know, we scratch cook quite a bit. However, culinary training is something that most people are concerned about as the increased need and increased regulation requiring more scratch cooking comes, you know, our way. Staffing, a lot of people are concerned about staffing because it's hard work in the kitchen, you know, and it does take skilled labor to do this. And so finding the right staff is extremely important, and staff satisfaction is a big deal. And we'll talk about a little bit about that. And then equipment and infrastructure. Again, outdated facilities or inadequate facilities is not just an Osborne issue. That is a national issue. So go over some of these things. So in Arizona, I'm going to talk a little bit about operations. So I'm going to a couple of slides on operations, a slide on about our staff, and Teresa's going to talk about our nutrition ed program. currently, and what we're hoping with the Child Nutrition Center, how we're hoping to overcome these challenges. HB 2164. So that is an Arizona law that requires school districts to comply with not serving overly processed foods. The reason that this new law is coming around 26, 27 is when it begins. The reason that this is a concern, and the reason that, or the way that a Child Nutrition Center would be able to help us comply with this regulation while still serving students meals that they like, and still being able to expand our scratch cooking and whatnot, is because a lot of programs are dependent on manufacturers. We are dependent on the manufacturers during our breakfast. Our breakfast in the classroom often has packaged items. As regulations like this come out, those items that manufacturers have nationally, we now don't have access. So now we're limited to less breakfast items, but we don't have the facilities to make a breakfast item and package it and then serve it in our breakfast in the classroom. Another bill that is being proposed is HB 2840. That bill requires a minimum amount of nutrition education, and also comes with a piece that it requires students to demonstrate proficiency in meal planning and reading food labels. I'm going to let Teresa talk a little bit more about the nutrition education piece, but expanding our nutrition education is something that we need to do, and we are currently limited by the space that we have.
Corey, do you know if this bill that's being proposed has a funding source, or is this an unfunded mandate?
I have not seen a funding source for either of those bills.
Okay.
So oftentimes those are unfunded.
Yes. We know.
New dietary guidelines. So we have new leadership at the federal level. Every time we have new leadership and things like dietary guidelines change, our program, the requirements are driven by the dietary guidelines. We know that we have new dietary guidelines. We are expecting changes to our program. We're not sure what yet. However, I would expect that these new changes are going to require more cooking, more in-house production. We're going to need a space for that. We're going to need a space to bring in more ingredients, to store them, to create recipes, and not be limited by, again, manufacturers or limited space. One of the things that I talked a little bit about is direct ship. Having a facility that allows for more storage allows us to cut out the middleman, essentially. Right now, we buy the food from a manufacturer, and then we pay a middleman, a distributor, $7 for every case that we bring into our district to create our recipes to make food. That $7 is roughly equates to anywhere from about $7,500 to about $10,000 a year, based on the number of cases that we get. It varies sometimes. That's $10,000 that takes away from direct classroom nutrition education that Teresa would be able to. And then farm to table program. So I put these slides up here because we have built great relationships with farmers. We've built great relationships with our ranchers. We have a freezer full of ground beef. I need more. I can't bring it in for a little while, so we're trying to manage that. But we want to expand our farm to table program. We want to plan with our local farmers. And this picture of a watermelon is because we serve watermelon on Watermelon Day. Well, we would like to do more than just here's one day, in the beginning of the year, or the strawberry day, or whatever day it might be. What we want to do is sit down with farmers and plan, and then accept a larger amount of, locally grown vegetables and fruit, and then use that in our program. But we don't have a cooler. So we are not able to really cultivate those relationships and build on those relationships to really support our local farmers and our ranchers in that way due to that. So let's see. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Okay. And then so that was more of a student satisfaction kind of slide where, you know, we know that we're doing a really good job in creating recipes and serving our students these wonderful meals. But how are we doing that? We're doing that because we are efficient and and we manage our program well. But we could be better. We could do better, and I know we could. We are not participating in a couple of programs that would really help our program thrive and pour more into our students in the classroom, pour more into our students into the cafeteria. As we generate revenue, we turn around and we buy better food. You saw in the spending report, we spend a little bit more money per meal, but that's because we buy better food. We have, you know, people in our kitchen really preparing, you know, more people. They're not just serving packaged items, so that costs more. But so a couple examples of these other programs that we would like to participate in. FFVP is a fresh fruit and vegetable program. This is a program that when we apply and we're accepted, anywhere between $50 to $75 per student is what essentially the state would give us. What we would do with that money is we would turn around and we would buy local produce, and then we would combine that with a nutrition education piece and send that to the classroom. Teresa can also do the nutrition education with the FFVP. But that also does give us a little bit of revenue, which then, again, we can take and turn around and put more into our program. Supper meals is another one. Right now, we participate in the after-school program, but we're serving snacks. That same program, we can serve a supper, but it requires more food items. It requires some packaging, and it requires a little more labor. However, it's worth it in my mind, but we just don't have the facility to do that. So right now, for those of you that walked the kitchens with us in the warehouse, you saw that breakfast in the classroom and what we have in the schoolers, we're maxed out. There's really no way for us to accept another meal's worth at each site in order to do the supper program. If we were able to do the supper program, that is a difference of about $3.34. I'm sorry, exactly, and about $100,000 a year in revenue. That's based on last year's numbers of how many snacks we served and the difference in revenue. Again, what happens with an extra $100,000 a year goes into, you know, nutrition education. It goes into better food. It goes into staff training. It goes into, you know, a lot of equipment, right? As that raise. Fundraisers is another way that we really want to use our that child nutrition center. We want a space where we're able to expand on things like our Flex Farm program. I'll let Teresa talk a little bit about that because she's kind of managing our Flex Farm, but that is another way to get the kids involved. Fundraise for our students, fundraise for student clubs, fundraise for our department. Lots of different ideas that we have that we just don't have the space for. Caterings, as you can see, those cupcakes look beautiful. Who wouldn't want to be catered by Osborne Nutrition, right? Right now, we're limited again in the space that we have is very small. With the space that the Child Nutrition Center would offer, it would expand our ability to offer more caterings and also a space for it too. The plans for a microforest offers like an inside, outside kind of event space where we can do some caterings there. We have lots of ideas about how that could work. But again, just another great way for us to serve our community better. Production, we talked a little bit about, you know, increasing our scratch cooking due to the mandates. We do want to centralize some things to be more efficient, such as like sauces, dips, some things that we aren't really able to do in the kitchen just based on space and based on the time that we have for production each day with our staff and what we do already. We would like to increase our baking a little bit. We're a little limited. If we can increase baking, that would solve some of our breakfast in the classroom dependency on manufactured items. And then summer meal site. So summer meals is something that I've wanted to offer more, since I've been here, but we don't really have a site. We can't really do it in the Garden Cafe. It doesn't offer the space. We normally do it at a school where we have 150, 200 students, and that works out well. With a site, a center, we would be able to say this is your summer meal site, and every year we have summer meal site. So that would allow for a little bit more offerings for our community, and also a little bit more revenue to again put back into our nutrition program and our nutrition education. And then with the center, staff training, development, and meeting space. So that I think I mentioned it before in my previous talk when I was telling you how when we hire somebody, it's often okay. Here's your position. You're a baker. You go to the kitchen. Help out in the kitchen, and we're gonna teach you how to bake when we have time, or when it calls for it. With the centralized training kitchen, that would allow us to better train our staff. We have right now in the working conditions survey, 85% staff satisfaction. I know that we could increase that number if we had things like better facility to train, the exact equipment. So when you go to train in a child nutrition center, you have the exact equipment, you go to the kitchen, now you know how to use it. It decreases things like risk of accidents. It increases things like job satisfaction and retention. These are a very big deal to somebody who works really hard in the kitchen. They want to feel like a professional, and what a great thing to have a facility for them to train in. Operational efficiency. Right now, the way that it works is we have to go to each site and train them at each site, where if we had a center, everybody could come to a centralized location. We could do those trainings. Standardization across all sites. So being able to train in a central location ensures an equitable product in each center. So we're not dependent on the talents of a staff member to go and duplicate that recipe, because now we've trained in a central location. Everybody's had the same training. Everybody is up to speed on how to use the equipment and how to create that recipe. And all of our students are tasting that recipe and tasting the same thing. Flexible meeting collaboration space. Again, that is, the space would offer kind of a better area for us to meet and train. And then safety and compliance. That's another thing that we don't really have the same equipment right now in the Garden Cafe. Again, we're going out to the sites. We're telling people, on the job training is kind of what you get. And, we would be better, served to have a central location for safety.
Okay, I'm really short. Okay. All right, I'm going to talk about the nutrition education piece of the new Child Nutrition Center. So right now we do all of our I do most of our nutrition education in classrooms. I go to the schools, I go in the classrooms, but we do offer some culinary nutrition classes in the Garden Cafe, which is in the cafeteria between Clarendon and Canto. The problem with that is that there's not a lot of equity, right? We're not just giving all of our students the chance to learn how to do culinary lessons as well. So the new center will offer a lot of space. Our current space is 1,050 square feet. The new center, the proposed space would be 1,400 square feet, so be significantly larger. Currently, we can fit about 24 kids in the Garden Cafe, snug. But a lot of our Clarendon classrooms are about 28, 29 kids, so it gets really snug. It gets a little crazy in there. Past that, it's a safety issue. The kids are using real knives in the classroom. They're doing amazing. They're doing it very safely, but when you have too many kids in a room and there's ovens on and stoves, it's a safety thing. So we want to have a space that we have more surface area for kids to be able to cook and do that. Up until recently, we were only having Clarendon and Canto kids in that room. 3-4 weeks ago, I had 3 classrooms from Longview do a field trip over to the Garden Cafe. It went very smoothly. It was amazing. Our transportation was awesome. And they had so much fun. We had 1st grade, 3rd grade to Lano Pre-K over next month.
Hmm.
So being able to offer that for all of our students, obviously amazing, but the current space in the Garden Cafe wouldn't allow a lot of our Longview classrooms to come over. For example, Mr. Tato's classroom has 34 students in it, 34 fourth graders. They're big kids, most of them are bigger than I am. So that just wouldn't be enough space. The new space also would have better, just better area for cooking classes.
Thank you. Would have better area for cooking classes, so we would be able to have electricity at every table, so we could do more than just knife skills and mixing. We could saute, we could have some induction burners, we could have mixers. The kids could learn, as they get older and build on those skills, other things other than just knife skills. I mean, they have fun, but I do think that we could make this a lot bigger and a lot better if we had that child nutrition center and offer it to more of our students. Next up is the Flex Farm. So Corey talked about the Flex Farm a little bit. If you have not been in the Garden Cafe, we have a hydroponic garden in there, and it is incredible. I kind of piloted it this year with a little bit of help from Miss Welhamy's class in third grade at Encanto. And we have done lettuce, we've done basil, and we are doing cucumbers right now. I've probably picked about 250 cucumbers off of that thing, and Longview used some of the cucumbers today in their salads, which was super fun. Miss Welhamy's class was on the news with me, pulling the lettuce out and harvesting it and using it as nutrition education. We have really, really big hopes and dreams for the Flex Farm. Unfortunately, the space we have right now could fit one, maybe two tops. The new center would have more space to have more of these Flex Farms where we could use the produce for things like our food pantry or to sell for fundraising or to give back to our students to help with food cost in the cafeteria as well, and to give our students the freshest, most delicious produce that they can have. Next up is this is something that I've kind of been envisioning, and Corey and I have talked about pretty much since I started here as an intern, is to do something with OMS. And I would love to do something like a pathway to Metro Tech. So Metro Tech is it's hard to get into. It's a competitive program. And my thought would be to bring some of the OMS students. We would do like a career path. They would have to interview. They would, fill out an application, and then they would work with me after school to learn all kinds of culinary skills throughout the year. And at the end of the year, present maybe like a fundraising dinner where they, do all of their skills. They create a menu and cook for the community. Getting over to OMS is a challenge because of the nature of how they switch classes. So I only see one class right now at OMS, and it is Ms. Kingston's class during her Firehawk period. And I love going over there; they're great. But I'd love to be able to have more OMS students participate in nutrition education. Community classes. So most organizations that put on community classes have a very hard time getting people to come. We do not. We currently just sold out and oversold our next Blue Zones class. And the reason for that is because we just don't have a lot of space. If 24 kids is cramped in the Garden Cafe, 24 adults is really cramped in the Garden Cafe. And I know a lot of you have come to the board admin retreats and you've seen what 24 adults looks like in there. It's pretty cramped. So being able to offer more community classes and offer them to a larger number of people, we again typically sell out and typically have a wait list. And then Corey touched on the microforest. Lifetime has put aside grant funding for us to have a microforest at the new center. You may have seen that Montecito just got a microforest and it's absolutely gorgeous. The students have had a lot of input on it. They got to go out and they did a beautiful ceremony and they help with planting and gardening, and there's all kinds of education around it. We could set that space up again for fundraising and for an outdoor learning space as well. And then finally is to have more grant opportunities. So when we can, I am constantly applying for grants all of the time. When we have a space that can serve more people, we have a better chance of getting those grants to provide, maybe pay for things like food costs for nutrition education or pay for equipment and things like that. More cutting boards or pans for the kids. So being able to get those grants is also really important. And then if you don't mind, I asked some of our teachers to ask some of their kids if they would tell me how nutrition education has impacted them. I do see 3 board member students every other month, and I love it. And I know that they have a good time. So I wanted to read some of some of what they wrote about how nutrition education has impacted them. So this one was my very favorite. It says, "It has impacted me because one time we made pineapple pina coladas, and I liked it so much, I make it at home. We made pineapple pico de gallo. I promise we are not making pina coladas in the garden cafe." Next up was nutrition education has impacted me because Miss Teresa has taught me how cross contamination works. So now I'm extra careful of how my food affects people. I also ask if people are allergic to foods that I bring so I can make sure that they're safe. I thought that was really, really cool. I think a lot of kids really liked learning about food safety. Next up, it says nutrition education has impacted me because I started to talk to my parents about it and they started to be interested about the recipes and they wanted to be healthier too. That's the goal, right? They go home and they talk to their parents. And then Ford, you might know this kiddo. I really loved this one. It has helped me learn how to cut, and I have tried 3 things that I really, really love. So I just wanted to share those with you. I have so many of them. They're amazing. As always, you guys are always welcome to come to the Blue Zones classes or check out our culinary classes to see what we're doing. Thank you.
So to kind of sum things up, we did a capital needs assessment in the 22-23 school year. What we learned at that time was that we needed to increase our facilities. We needed more storage. We need more dry storage. We need more cool storage. We need more freezer storage. We want to expand scratch cooking. We want more farm to table initiatives. We need a central production kitchen. We wanted to increase grant opportunities. We wanted to increase student and community nutrition education, and we wanted to reduce educational costs. And we felt that and went out to the community and asked for us to meet these program needs. At the time that we did that, we had an enrollment of 2,425 students. When we had that enrollment and these needs, 75% of our voters said, do this. Not a kind of idea. It was a line item asking for a new build, not refurbish a current building, for a new build with that enrollment. Now, you can see what our enrollment is now. It's like 1.5% difference. That is statistically, yeah, you can know, statistically insignificant to that 75% when you match it up against what our community asks for. Needs are all there. When you look between 2023 and now, the same needs are there, except there are new regulations that demand this. Not just we want, demand this. There's a minimum number of hours of nutrition education that's going to be coming down the pike. We want to be able to provide that. Not just we want to, we have to, and we have to have the facilities to be able to do so. And we need to, in order to meet all of the regulatory requirements, we're going to need to have staff that's prepared to do that type of scratch cooking. And so Corey needs the facilities to be able to work with staff to train them to do so safely. So basically what this comes down to is we had a need, the same need exists, except there are more regulations. We went to our community, they said yes overwhelmingly, and now they expect us to meet what they asked us to do, what we asked them for, and they said, yes, go do that. So that's kind of where we are now. But a couple of the questions that really stuck out, in our first presentation was, number one, in times of declining enrollment, should we be having a new build? When we look at the enrollment that we had when we did this, we do not have a very significant difference in enrollment. It's pretty much 39 students out of 2,400 students difference between then and now. We've got basically the same enrollment that we had then. That's not an excuse for us that there's this decline in, yes, there's decline in enrollment that's happening all around. But when we had 2,400 students and we went to our community and said, we're not doing things at the most efficient way that we can be, in the safest way, and in the way that's going to best provide for nutrition needs for our students, we've got to do something. And they said, okay, we're going to we're going to support the district in doing this for our kids. There's not a difference there. One of the other big things that is, you know, continued the same since that time is that those needs are there. The needs are there, you know, within our department, and it's time for us to meet them. We came before, maybe we had cart before the horse in bringing plans to you, so we wanted to step back, not do anything, with no action tonight. This is just information for you about where we were, how we got here, all the work that's going into it, all the thought that goes behind it. um, I remember something that I wanted to say. One of the other big concerns was about, um, is this going to be, you know, just meeting a couple students' needs? Number one, we've already seen how we've been able to work with our transportation department to make sure that this isn't something that's just one or two schools in our district. We want every child to be able to come over for the child nutrition, as well as our nutrition education, as well as our community. But that's one part of it. Every single child, every single day will be touched by this because of the production that's happening, because of the scratch cooking that we're able to do, by the baking that we're going to be able to do for the entire district, that won't be dependent on, do they have a baker over at this school but they don't have one at this school? Do we need to? No, we can centralize that and have staff that's working in that facility every day to centralize a lot of the operational needs, bring down operational costs, and serve better food. We already have amazing cafeterias and kitchens and products for our students, and it's only going to get better. So there's lots of people that are here that can answer questions. So this was an informational and discussion item for you guys tonight.
Thank you so much. This was really great to see the historical, the context. And I can say that I know that Clerk Ford and I have attended the Blue Zones class, and it is a lot of fun. And you see how the kids, I've seen the students that are there just get so excited over it. And then, you know, just personally, I love Metro Tech High School and their culinary program. Um, you know, I might be married to one of their teachers, but but I see the skills that the students learn, and I see, you know, I since I work from home, I tend to go and have my lunch there, and I see the just the customer service skills. A lot of these students end up working already in restaurants locally, you know, making their money to prepare for whatever is next for them. One of their high school seniors right now is going to New York for culinary and has a full ride scholarship. And it's just super exciting. And also the math skills, like I see how they're scaling recipes. And you know, and it's hard, but it really does help with that. And the literacy skills that come from reading recipes and understanding what they're reading. So I personally am super excited. I don't have any questions, but I'll see if my colleagues have any questions for you all.
I did have one question because I think I remember when we were knocking doors for this particular bond, we talked about having a community food bank in this space. Is that something? Did I tell voters the wrong thing when I
Oh,
knocked
no,
on
you
their
didn't.
door?
No, you
Are
didn't.
we going to have one?
Yes,
Okay.
there is a space built in for food pantry, and some partnerships that I have. You know, that's a conversation that's already happening. You know, um, yes, the answer is yes. We do have a space for it. We have plans for it. We just need the space. And currently, we do have pantries in our
Hmm.
schools,
Yep.
but they are in kind of a half a classroom, and they are in the middle of the campus. You know, this would allow for a central location where our community knows that building. I can go to that building. I can knock on the door, and I know that they have a pantry. Obviously, we want to formalize times and things like that for our community to come and serve them. But yes, there is a space for that.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to comment. As a mom, my son is the pickiest eater I have ever met. My child does not eat ketchup. I've never met a child that doesn't eat ketchup. But I wanted to say thank you to Miss Teresa because these nutrition classes that he's able to go to are such a highlight of his day. And I have seen him be willing to try so many new things. He doesn't always like them, but at least he has the willingness to try them. And I think getting students together and sharing a meal is such an important part of that. You know, kids are influenced by other kids. But I have seen his palate, or at least his ability to want to try things, expand exponentially since Miss Teresa started coming to his school. So I love what our Child Nutrition Center does for our students. I'm so excited for the growth that we're going to experience once we're able to finally build this building. And I think there are so many important things that are happening. So I just wanted to thank you all for all your amazing work that you're doing. This is really exciting. Thank you.
And there may be more questions. You guys had so many questions the first time, and I want to thank you because as a result of those questions, I got together not only with Corey but also with Sam, because not only will this create, this central plant for child nutrition, but it will also open space that currently exists that will satisfy facility needs for the maintenance department. So big thanks to Corey and Sam, but also to you board members. You had so many questions that we provided an opportunity to give one-on-one tours, and you guys came through. We did a number of these tours, and hopefully got a lot of those questions answered. I think it was pretty eye-opening for all of you. I'll be honest, I've been in this district 19 years, and I saw things on those tours that I haven't seen, and it was really eye-opening to me. I believed you, but seeing it for real, it really did something in terms of driving home the need.
Couple of questions. So Corey and Teresa, thank you for all you do. I grew up on Swiss rolls and honey buns for most of my school nutrition and didn't know anything about nutrition until much later. Still don't know that much. So I'm just so grateful the students get this type of experience with you all. Um, really phenomenal. And Corey, I think especially the national recognition you're getting, and just I'd love to come to a Blue Zones class and see that and what folks are getting out of those experiences. That would be amazing. Um, one question about the building itself: are we modeling out the operational, like an annualized operational cost of this building? Because I was thinking about our pie chart that we saw before in terms of, this is marginal increase in operational costs. Those are things that could be reading specialists or teacher support in classroom support there. Have we done that yet?
So, Colleen, you go for it. If it's a money question, you should go
Yes,
first.
yes. So Corey and I have met. We've looked at the plans for the size of the building, the square footage. Looked at that compared to our current kind of operational. When we think about utility costs of a standalone building facility, and we are kind of right in that ballpark. We're estimating roughly about 20,000 a year would be the utility cost, but that's all utilities, including water, power, trash, those pieces based on what we, our rates that we currently have for our other square footage at our other sites. With that, just an important reminder that those costs are not coming from our M&O budget. So because this would be a standalone building that would be 100% operating the child nutrition program, those costs are part of the child nutrition program's operational costs. So they come from those federal dollars. So that $4.71 that Corey was saying we receive right now per meal, that is all of his operational cost. And so that would also include the ongoing costs annually for the operation of the building. Whereas
So that taking away, is it going to take away from others? Child nutrition is its own financial enterprise, right? So it's not taking M&O dollars that satisfy those other educational needs.
So are we running a surplus in our child nutrition? How are we covering that extra 20K every year?
So, right, we do, depending on the year. So, and depending on the additional programs that Corey's able to bring in. So that was where those additional revenues and opportunities are really, really important. And we're limited on how many of those we can go after right now. So as he's able to have a larger space, we can bring in fresh fruit and veggie program. We can look at those supper meal programs. All of those are additional revenues coming in that then we'll be able to help offset. But there is a surplus right now in our 510 account that has been built up over many years because we do have years where we have good operating years and we have a surplus, and then we have years not so much. And so it kind of balances out over the longevity of the program. But we do have a surplus right now in our 510 account.
Okay. And then in terms of that would just be the utilities in terms of staff time, cleaning, um, other types of costs on top of that 20K. What else would we factor into that total operating cost for a year?
Yeah, so we would look at night custodial costs, and we would base that similar to what we do with our other square footage when we look at, okay, it's essentially the equivalent of a classroom space and a couple offices. And then the staff right now, we don't have night custodial that go through and clean the kitchens right now, right? That's managed by and done by the child nutrition team themselves. And so that would already be part of the staff cost encumbered for the building. It wouldn't be an additional cost on top of.
Okay, but we're not adding more staff, right? So it would just be the staff would then be required to clean an additional space. Is that
Yeah,
right?
the central production kitchen, yes. Which is, I'll let Corey speak to that, but it's a regulation within their program. As soon as something is used, they have to sanitize it and wipe it down. It's not something that can wait till a night custodian comes through to, so in those food prep areas, it's sanitized, cleaned immediately.
Got it. In terms of the kitchen space, the instructional space that we'd have in there, do we know what percentage of time that space will be utilized in a given school day? Like, will we have programming that's happening in there half of the day every day? Will it be happening, less frequently, more frequently than that? Have we modeled out that programming at this point yet?
For nutrition education. So again, like we just started bringing over some of those other schools. So kind of just seeing how that goes into the new year. I'm hoping that, or into the next couple school years, when the nutrition center is built, I'm hoping to be able to bring over any other classrooms that want to come over, because obviously if a teacher doesn't want to bring a class over, then I can't force them to. But if they want to bring them over, I'm hoping I can bring them over a couple times a year. So I'm hoping to use that space most days than not. I also, for classes that I go into their classroom, I also prep their snacks that I bring for them in that room. So it would be used pretty much every day. And then the central kitchen would be used every day.
Have we surveyed our teachers to know whether or not they would bring their students over, or whether that would be a barrier for them to taking advantage of the
I have
education?
not surveyed the teachers. That is a great idea. But I will say that our teachers love nutrition education. And I was actually saying today that when I send out our sign up sheet every month, it is filled within 10 minutes. And we used to do about 30 classes a month. So I don't think there would be a problem with filling that space.
And if that becomes mandatory, then they don't have a choice. Like if nutrition education becomes a law, then teachers will not have an opportunity to say no because it will be law.
And I guess one last question for other bond projects as well. I know that we're contemplating, or according to the bond, we also have to do a music or auditorium space. Is that right as well?
Mm-hmm.
Have we thought about or contemplated having the footprint of those, since that's going to be on the OMS campus? I can imagine nutrition education for middle schoolers an important thing. Have we contemplated sharing a footprint, especially? I think the student nutrition center space that we saw last time, I think, had like 50 parking spaces, 20 to 50 parking spaces there. Have we thought about co-locating and doing that construction in one place, or other efficiencies that would make sure we're not adding two new administrative buildings across our district?
So in terms of functionality, I don't see a centralized plant necessarily cross pollinating with an auditorium space. But I understand what the question is. This was thinking about, in terms of the child nutrition, the placement. We thought very carefully about the placements of these facilities. The purpose of OMS for the auditorium facility was purposeful, looking at enrollment and getting every child that comes in on that OMS campus, so that parents recognize from day one when you come in, as a preschooler, the pathway preschool through 8 is through Osborne Middle School, right? And so getting everybody, it was very thoughtful and meaningful that we can have those. And we saw some of that already this year with bringing kids over from the elementary campuses, having some, in Firehawk Park. That was purposefully done so that we could have some of those K3 kids or 4 through 6 kids on that OMS campus, seeing their future middle school campus. This space was very intentional, thinking about not only the facility, the way it's being used, but the commercial needs for being able to come in and out. And so we've got this central plant here with, in terms of ingress, egress, of being able to get trucks in there. That's part of what Mark was talking about, looking at the other facilities and this isn't just about the work that's being done. It's about getting all of the things in there for the storage, the dry storage, the cold storage, the freezer storage. We got to be able to get big trucks in and out of there.
Mhm.
And so doing that off of Camelback Road in the same way, that's part of why we were saying not doing that at Longview. Having that kind of traffic going into, off of Indian School Road, that's just not going to work. I don't know if Mark, Colleen, if you guys have anything to add to that.
I would just add to the point of the parking spaces. I know when you see that on a plan, it looks like, wow, that's a lot of spaces for, day-to-day building based on staff that's there day to day. But there's actually requirements for code for buildings of how many parking spaces we need to have for the size of the facility. So it's really about those spaces based on when it's going to be used for those community events, for those blue zones, for those classes. When there will be 50 people there, we need those parking spaces for those codes. So
Those codes at? Where could I read those codes? Are those city codes
I'm
or
going to defer to
Mark?
yes.
Mark, or you just send them to me when you get a chance. I'll be interested to take a look at those. You got my. You can
I
send them
think
over.
Mr.
Or Dawn,
Brubaker's
or
here.
yeah.
Don Brubaker's the expert. He's the one that does the calculations.
Not necessarily the expert, but well, no, I am.
Take it where you get it, Tom.
Thank you for asking me to come up. All these requirements for parking, each city has their own codes. That if you have a certain building type, then you have to have so many parking spaces per occupants in that building. Obviously, when you get into assembly, like a performing arts, it requires a lot more parking spaces. Even schools, we're required to have so many parking spaces per school, whether it's a high school, middle school, or an elementary. One thing, and not to get too deep in all the detail of the design, but when you think about the middle school, you know that whole playground is not available for complete development. We still have to provide some playground space in some area for outdoor activities for the middle school. So when you start looking at everything that's going to be that put onto that, to then add a child nutrition there and so forth with all the access and so forth, you're really overtaxing that particular site there. So these are things I think they're great questions. I think it's something to consider. These are things that we've been looking at and going, what really makes sense for the placement of these different type of facilities. I hope that answers it for you there. Okay.
If you run across those regs, I'd love to take a look at them.
Yes, and you can
I put more work on
you can
anybody.
actually Google like City of Phoenix and parking requirements and those type of things. They're right on there. Not only just parking stalls, but how many van parking, how many handicap parking spaces. They even give you maneuverability, turning radiuses and things like that. That's all in the city ordinances. And I'll give you a lesson on codes if you'd like to. We'll have a lot of fun.
I was
Okay.
pretty involved in reducing the mandatory minimum parking requirements
Okay.
for residences. So I more so have a background in residences.
Yes.
Certainly don't in this area. That's why I'm
Yes.
just looking to learn.
Okay, good.
Yep.
No problem.
And members of the board, I let you know that this spring, I told you rest up during spring break, because this spring it's going to be a sprint. There's going to be a lot of work done. We've been very intentional with this bond committee and thinking about how we're going to roll things out to you between this regular board meeting, our April work study session, our April regular session, our May session. There's a lot more coming. And so we just wanted to, when we get into designs, we want you to step into that space so you can really be focused on that design and just how intentional that is. This is the why. That's the purpose of this meeting, is really getting into what were those recognized programmatic needs. How did we write up a bond? How did our community respond? And now what's our responsibility to our voters now that we've asked them and they've said deliver for us? The next step to that is getting into the design phase, and we'll be moving into that coming up. But this was that space for asking those why questions. Number one, for us to present some of the whys and the path that we took to get here, and to get answers for you on the whys. I really appreciate how much time you guys have put into walking the facilities with us, listening to these presentations, continuing in the off time, us meeting and talking, or you sending me emails and asking, and this team, you've got a lot of people that are working hard on getting you those answers. So thank you so much.
Great, perfect. Well, thank you so much again. Truly appreciate all of the information, and looking forward to the sold out Blue Zones class next week. All right. So our next item is our board development. So we don't have anything. We finished reading our book last time. So we'll come with either articles or another book in the near future. But for now, we will always make sure to put any future conferences. If you are interested, let us know. That way we can put that to get approved and look at what the cost would be and everything. And then last item here is future agenda items. Board Member Blink.
Thanks so much. I think I'll just reiterate the agenda items from last meeting. I think, our focus of our study has been on student outcomes and achievement. Very much looking forward to the opportunity to get together as a group, um, identify our student outcome focused SMART goals, and then allowing the administration to build a strategic plan since our 5-year is up around those specific goals. Um, and I loved President Ramos's suggestion from last meeting on student recruitment strategies. Eager to see that on the agenda. And I think after some of the feedback tonight as well, the future of Montecito and the strategic plan for 7th and 8th grade dual education would be really great.
Thank you so much. Board Member Hermes.
Yeah, just a few, and maybe some of them Ben already said, but one at summer school. I know we just got out of spring break. This is where a lot of families are now looking ahead. What are the summer school opportunities? Would love to, understand what those summer school opportunities are here in Osborne specifically, and have a discussion about that. Second, yeah, dual language at both Montecito, as we heard about, as well as just higher grades, generally speaking. Maybe some history there, middle school, dual language. When people pick Osborne, a lot of them pick Osborne because of dual language, and they're thinking a long time of their kids' academic career. Other one is separately. Um, Maybe I like the history. I really like looking at, hey, what is this? And I would love a presentation or discussion about how we got to our current models of having a middle school. I'm around the community a lot. I talk to a lot of folks who say, I went to Grandview Elementary, or, I remember going to Clarendon until 8th grade. And so, how do we get here today where, maybe unlike a Creighton or an Alhambra or, a Shaw Elementary that's K-8, how do we get here to where we are today, where we have a middle school? Um, Pros, cons of that model versus a K-8 model. I think that would be an interesting discussion, historical discussion. Fourth, and this maybe is a longer term one, certainly, I would love a discussion or an update about our power or utility usage. And where this is coming from is when we passed a bond way back in the day, like 17, when we put up the solar panels. I remember the plan or the hope or the desire was to have 80% usage of our utility coming from that solar. Didn't want to get to 100%. Didn't want to, we want to hit that 80% sweet spot. I would love to know, where are we? And this is kind of thinking ahead for a potential future bond in the future. If we're not already there at that 80% of getting our electricity from solar, is there a need or an opportunity to do more of that?
Thank you so much. Clerk Ford.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
And nothing for me since it's all been said already. So we adjourn the meeting at 8:25 p.m.
Thank you.